Chapter 460. Huang Rong was terrified. Over the years, she had been worrying about Xiangyang's defense, and had almost forgotten that she was once a girl who longed for romance. She loved Brother Jing very much, but she had spent more than 10 years of her youth in Xiangyang, and she could foresee that she would spend the rest of her life in Xiangyang. Whenever she thought about it, she would always feel a little regretful. With Huang Rong's intelligence, she naturally understood that the southern Song dynasty was corrupt while the Mongolians were thriving. It was not hard to predict the final outcome. When Xiangyang City was breached with Brother Jing's personality, he would definitely commit suicide for his country. How could she live then? In the past, she avoided thinking in this direction. But today, for some reason, she suddenly realized that she could not control her thoughts. When she thought about everything that was destined to happen, a deep sense of helplessness rose in her heart. Huang Rong quickly shook her head and threw all her complicated emotions to the back of her mind. She comforted herself that it was only because she had never seen Song Qingshu in action and did not know his strength. After all, even with her martial arts, she was not confident that she could block a flying saber or sword. He was so young, so she subconsciously felt that he would not be able to block it either. Huang Rong's abnormal behavior just now had caused the people in the area to think that she was too shocked and did not think too much about it. Who would know what was going on in her heart? Everyone's attention was soon attracted by the two people facing each other on the stage. They stared at the two people on the stage. Unlike the other groups, there was always one person who was not famous, but the two people in the last group were famous people in the world of martial artists. There was no need to mention Duan Yanqing. He was the leader of the 4 great villains, the strongest player in Class 1 Hall of Western Xia, and a peerless villain who had dominated the world of martial artists for decades. There were also rumors that he was of the royal blood of Dali, and his One-Yang finger was the strongest among the Duans in Dali. As for Ling Huchong, he was the most famous rising star of 5 Mountain Sword faction. His sword technique had reached perfection, and it was said that he had already surpassed his former master, Noble Sword Yu Buchuan, the sect leader of Mount Hua. Not long ago, he had also helped the former cult master of Sun Moon's sect, Ren Wuxing, kill the publicly acknowledged strongest player in the underworld at Blackwood Cliff. He even had the chance to become the strongest in the world, Dongfang Bubi. During that fight, Ren Wuxing was blinded in one eye, but Ling Huchong was able to escape unscathed. Of course, what the people of Jianghu were most envious of was not his martial arts, but his ignorance. When he was still an ordinary disciple of the Mount Hua sect, he was able to gain the favor of the Sun Moon sect's young Miss Run, and from then on, he had a meteoric rise. Although there were only a few people in the Jianghu who had seen Miss Ren's appearance, it wasn't that there were none. The news that spread out could confirm that Miss Run was a beautiful girl who was as beautiful as a fairy. When Song Qingshu heard the group of martial artists in the distance, intentionally lowering their voices to discuss the matter, he smiled in understanding. It seemed like no matter which era it was, gossiping was a person's natural instinct. Recalling the pair of smooth, jade-like calves in the Blackwood Cliffs bathtub, Song Qingshu's heart skipped a beat. He subconsciously looked in the direction of the Sun Moon sect and happened to see Ren Yingying staring at him. He couldn't help but smile at her. After the initial panic, Ren Yingying couldn't help but glare at him fiercely. The flirting between the two didn't escape Zhou Zhirua's eyes. Zhou Zhirua smiled coldly. I really didn't know you were so capable before. You actually managed to hook up with the evil cult's young Mississippi. Song Qingshu smiled awkwardly. Don't make it sound so bad. We've only met a few times, not even a nodding acquaintance. Thinking of how Ren Yingying would want to kill him every time she saw him, Song Qingshu felt that he wasn't lying. Ren Yingying doesn't count as a nodding acquaintance, but what about gang leader Huang and Miss Gua? Zhu Yingying also interrupted. You saved the mother and daughter in a row. They are very grateful to you. Feeling the jealousy in the air, Song Qingshu quickly said seriously, Hero Gua and gang leader Huang have been guarding Xiangyang and protecting the Han people for many years. How can I sit back and watch them get hurt in front of me? Humph. Zhou Zhou mercilessly exposed his lie. Then why did you put your hand on her waist just now? You also took the opportunity to hold heroine Huang's hand. Unexpectedly, Zheng Ro saw it clearly and couldn't help but join in the condemnation. It was just a mistake. Song Qingshu repeatedly begged for mercy. Hurry up and start the game. They're already fighting. Mom, who do you think will win? After all, Guofu was still a young girl. Once the scar healed, she would forget the pain. She quickly put aside the danger and watched the competition with relish. Huang Rong blushed as if she was in a daze. It turned out that she had been eavesdropping on the conversation between Song Qingshu and the others. Although they deliberately lowered their voices, they weren't far from each other, and Huang Rong used her power to eavesdrop and heard most of their conversation. Huang Rong didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she became the object of the jealousy of the women. After all, both Zhou Zhiruo and Zhu Yingying were extremely beautiful girls, and even Zheng Ro was cute and lovely. Her children were already grown up, but they were still jealous of her, which was the best affirmation of her charm. Mom, what's wrong? Why do you look so distracted? Guofu looked at her strangely. If only I were as carefree as you, Huang Rong thought to herself and quickly answered. Nothing, I'm just thinking about something. Mom, who do you think will win? Guofu asked while eating melon seeds. They both have their own strengths. It's really hard to judge. Huang Rong answered absent-mindedly, glancing at Song Qingshu from time to time. All kinds of thoughts came to her mind, and she didn't even know what she was thinking about. On the other side, Zhou Zhiruo was also discussing the same issue with Song Qingshu. I remember you said that Ling Huchong was seriously injured during the battle at Blackwood Cliff and has been bettered in ever since? Song Qingshu frowned and thought. Now the Sun Moon sect is under the control of Zhang Wuji, and Zhang Wuji is the divine physician of apricot spirits. I guess he cured Ling Huchong's injury, and this time he plans to use Ling Huchong to take over the Golden Snake Camp. In that case, it can be said that Zhang Wuji controls half of the martial arts world. Zhou Zhiruo corrected him with dissatisfaction. It's venerated Ming, not Zhang Wuji. As soon as her voice fell, her heart thumped, afraid that it would cause Song Qingshu to misunderstand. Unexpectedly, Song Qingshu smiled faintly. Actually, whether it's Zhang Wuji or venerated Ming, it doesn't make a difference to me. In any case, they'll both be my enemies. Zhou Zhiruo's face turned red. She knew that the opposition between the two was largely because of her. This time, Zhang Wuji is seriously injured and can't take command here. If Ling Huchong really succeeds in winning, then Ren Wuxing will take the opportunity to send his trusted aides to control the Golden Snake Camp. Perhaps then, he will have enough capital to break free from Zhang Wuji's control. Song Qingshu continued to analyze. The current situation was getting more and more interesting. Chapter 461. But with the strength shown by the previous contestants, I'm afraid it will be difficult for Ling Huchong to win. But his swordsmanship is really exquisite. Zhu Yu praised as she watched the fight. This is the 9 strategies beyond the swords. Song Qingshu explained Ling Huchong's moves to the 2 girls while watching. Although Song Qingshu had never learned the 9 strategies beyond the swords, he knew the principle and the general composition of the 9 strategies beyond the sword from the movies and television works in his previous life. Coupled with his current attainments in swordsmanship, it was not difficult for him to see through Ling Huchong's 9 strategies beyond the swords, which was still lacking. Huang Rong, who had been watching, could not help but be shocked. Song Qingshu's every evaluation was extremely accurate. Song Qingshu could even point out in advance what Ling Huchong's next move would be, how Duan Yanqing would snatch it, and what Ling Huchong's subsequent hidden killer move would be. After dozens of moves, all of Ling Huchong's and Duan Yanqing's movements seemed to follow Song Qingshu's instructions. Huang Rong was suddenly full of curiosity about this young man. What kind of person was he? How could he reach such a realm at such a young age? When Brother Jing was at this age, his martial arts skills were far inferior to his. No wonder so many fairy-like girls were willing to surround him at the same time. Huang Rong's face suddenly turned red, and she could not help but secretly spit. What was she thinking? On the other side, Song Qingshu naturally did not know that he was being compared with Guijing by Huang Rong. He was thinking about something else. This Ling Hu Chong is indeed a martial arts genius. Although he has not been exposed to the 9 strategies beyond the swords for a long time, he can already create his own style. If he is given another 10 years, his realm will probably surpass Feng Qingyang's. Song Qingshu sighed with emotion. If Ling Hu Chong had not chosen to fight steadily because of Duan Yanqing's one yang finger, he would have already won by now. On the stage, Duan Yanqing also smiled bitterly in his heart. After witnessing the heaven-defying battle strength displayed by those contestants, he had long understood that he would not be able to participate in this Golden Snake meeting. However, years of suffering had long tempered his unswerving character. He would never give up unless he had no other choice. However, he did not expect that his first opponent would make him so miserable. Aside from the single sun finger, Duan Yanqing's attainments in swordsmanship were also very high. After all, the Duan family's swordsmanship was famous in the martial arts world. However, after witnessing Ling Hu Chong's swordsmanship, he finally understood that there was always someone better out there. Ling Hu Chong's sword moves emerged one after another. Each variation was something Duan Yanqing had never seen before. Relying on his rich experience and profound martial arts skill, Duan Yanqing was able to neutralize each and every one of Ling Hu Chong's sword moves. However, after more than 40 stances, Duan Yanqing's movements were already somewhat sluggish. He slowly transferred his internal energy to the iron staff, and when he made his move, there was a faint sound of wind and thunder. It turned out that Duan Yanqing knew that he had lost in terms of moves, so he played to his strengths and avoided his weaknesses, striving to win with his internal energy. Duan Yanqing carried a blood feud. For the past few decades, except for the spring equinox he had with the goddess of mercy under the Bodhi tree when he was fleeing from Dali, he had not been close to a woman in the past few decades. He concentrated on cultivating his internal energy. Now, with the strength of his internal energy, except for some famous grandmasters, he thought he would not lose to anyone. Of course, that abnormal Song Qingshu was an exception. Duan Yanqing saw that Ling Hu Chong's swordsmanship was light and agile. It was more than exquisite, but slightly lacking in force. Duan Yanqing quickly guessed that Ling Hu Chong's internal energy might be his shortcoming. At his age, how many years of internal energy could he have? Moreover, this person was favored by the evil sex Saintus. He had long heard that the Sun-Moon sex misrun was a peerless beauty, and Ling Hu Chong was hot-blooded, indulging in love and gentleness. Naturally, his vitality would be greatly damaged. Duan Yanqing was more certain of his judgment. But if Duan Yanqing knew Song Qingshu's cultivation method, would he die of anger? After several clashes of weapons, Ling Hu Chong's hand was shaken to the point of numbness. Soon, he understood Duan Yanqing's plan. His heart stirred. He used the absorbing stars chant and waved his sword to meet Duan Yanqing's iron staff. Not long after taking advantage of the first few times, Duan Yanqing's expression suddenly changed. Because every time their weapons clashed, he found that the strength in his iron staff disappeared without a trace, like a clay ox entering the sea. At first, he did not take it seriously, only thinking that his opponent had used some exquisite move to dissolve the internal energy in his weapon. Who knew that after a dozen more moves, he felt that the internal energy in his dantian was somewhat out of control, faintly showing signs of bursting out. Duan Yanqing's expression changed greatly. Absorbing stars. His first reaction was to use the dissipation skill. After all, he and Ding Chuanxiu were considered acquaintances. But then he remembered that Ling Hu Chong and Ding Chuanxiu had no relationship at all, and he had never heard of Ding Chuanxiu passing on the dissipation skill to him. Who could it be? Naturally, it could only be the absorbing stars, the head teacher of the Sun-Moon Church, who was famous for. Duan Yanqing did not expect that the old devil would pass on his special skill to him. He could not help but smile bitterly. He hurriedly waved 3 moves and jumped out of the fighting ring, while Ling Hu Chong was defending. He waved his hand and said, "There's no need to fight." This old man admits defeat. Although Duan Yanqing was tough, he was not a fool. He knew that he could not compete with his moves, nor could he compete with his internal energy. If he continued to fight, he might lose the power he had painstakingly cultivated for a lifetime. That would be like going for wool and coming home shorn. Therefore, Duan Yanqing made a prompt decision and hurriedly admitted defeat. "Thank you for letting me win." With Ling Huchang's humble temperament, he wanted to say a few polite words to save some face for his senior. But when he thought of Duan Yanqing's reputation as a villain, he was unhappy and swallowed his words of comfort. "Brother Chong, you're amazing." When Ling Huchang returned to his seat, Ren Yingying could not help but smile sweetly. "Brother Chong, you're amazing." When Ling Huchang returned to his seat, Ren Yingying could not help but smile sweetly. Looking at Ren Yingying's curved eyes, Ling Huchang knew that she was happy from the bottom of her heart. He could not help but feel happy. He did not know when it started, but Ren Yingying's eyes always had a sense of melancholy and bitterness. Ling Huchang asked her several times, but she shook her head and did not say anything. When he asked too much, Ren Yingying would even shed tears. Ling Huchang knew that Ren Yingying was shy and did not dare to push her too much, so he did not continue to ask. He subconsciously thought that it was about the Sun-Moon sect being nibbled away by the Ming dynasty. Therefore, he had been helping Ren Yingying and her father in this aspect. Ren Yingying saw it and knew that he had misunderstood, but she could not explain the real reason to Ling Huchang. If Ren Yingying did not say it, no matter how imaginative Ling Huchang was, he would not have imagined that the evil sect's holy nun, who made countless people in Jianghu tremble with fear, would actually be bullied by a man in her boudoir. After a day of competition, the sky had gradually darkened. Huang Rong reascended the arena and announced that the second round of competition would be held the next morning. Then, she confirmed the opponent for the second round. When she read out Song Qingshu's name, for some reason, there was a trace of unnaturalness in her tone. Ouyang Feng, who was watching all of this from afar, was keenly aware of all this. A trace of a strange smile appeared on his weathered face. Chapter 462. Brother Song, after watching all the candidates fight today, who do you think is the most difficult to deal with? After returning to the mountain of Wangwu faction, Zhu Yaoyao asked curiously. Of course it's that Ah Qing. Zhou Zhiruo looked worried. She had seen Ah Qing fight with her own eyes. Even Ming Zun was easily defeated by her. She really could not imagine how Song Qing could deal with her. Ah Qing can only meet in the final. The opponents in the 2 rounds before the final are not easy to deal with. Thinking of Xiao Ban, Zhu Yaoyao could not help but frown. She recognized that Xiao Ban was the person who sneak-attacked Song Qing in Shengjing City and seriously injured her. At that time, his palm almost killed Zhu Yaoyao. She still had a lingering fear when she thought of it. And equal square root pound is not equal to greater than or equal to pound p. The people in the other group, whether it was the 4th Lady Yang Miaojin or the young man named Shi Patian, were not easy to deal with. Not to mention Yang Miaojin's reputation, the internal force that Shi Patian showed today could be said to be world-shaking. His defense was completely invincible. Being hit by the enemy was just like scratching an itch. If his moves were at the same level, he would definitely be a terrible opponent. Looking at the 2 women's worried look, Song Qing smiled faintly and said, "You can rest assured that the final winner of this competition will be me." "Why are you so confident?" Zhou Zhiruo asked curiously. In her opinion, although Song Qing's martial arts were high, there were a few people in this year's competition whose martial arts were obviously not below his. Who would win and who would lose was only 50-50. As for Ah Qing, his martial arts were even above Song Qing's. Song Qing smiled mysteriously and said, "Buddha said, it can't be said, it can't be said." Seeing Zhou Zhiruo's eyebrows raised, Song Qing quickly changed the topic and said, "I plan to go to Xiao Ban's place to check. When Qing Qing comes back later, I will tell her." "Shall I go with you?" Zhu Yaoyao was tempted. If it were not for Xiao Ban's palm, she would not have been taken advantage of by Song Qing. Zhu Baoi had imagined countless times that she would dedicate her first time to her lover, but none of them matched the characteristics of the scene outside Shengjing City. Thinking of this, Zhu Baoyi gnashed her teeth in hatred. Xiao Ban was the culprit, so Zhu Baoyi naturally wanted to cut him into 8 pieces. Song Qing hesitated for a moment and finally shook his head. Now there are too many masters in the Golden Snake Camp. There are hidden dangers under the calm. Jiao, you still stay in Wangwu faction for an emergency. I will be soon. Xiao Ban's identity was too mysterious, so Song Qing was worried that there would be some danger on this trip. His lightness skill was superb, so he could easily escape if anything happened. If he brought Zhu Baoyan along, she would be in danger if the enemy had already set up an inescapable net. With Song, Zhu Yui sighed in disappointment. However, she was a sensitive person and quickly noticed Song Qing's concern. Her mood immediately improved. Zhiruo, don't leave tonight. Stay here and help take care of Jiao. Song Qing sighed in disappointment. With Zhou Zhiruo and Zhu Yaoyao's martial arts, if they joined hands, even if someone of the 5 unique level came, he estimated that they would not be able to win. But Zhou Zhiruo misunderstood his meaning, and her face immediately turned red. She was just about to refuse, but she didn't know why she felt reluctant in her heart. In the end, all her thoughts turned into a soft in. After leaving Wangwu faction, Song Qing's figure turned into a wisp of smoke and quickly touched the hilltop where Xiao Ban was. Song Qing's heart moved. This hilltop was Shui Jian's territory. He did not know how Shui Sheng was now. He did not see her during the day. Now that it was troubled times, Song Qing was worried that something had happened to Shui Sheng. After hesitating for a moment, he went to her boudoir. He was surprised to find that her room was empty. At this time, 2 servants came to clean up the yard. From their conversation, Song Qing learned that Shui Jian had accompanied Shui Sheng to take Shui Dai's coffin back to Jiangnan for burial. I did not expect that Shui Sheng still could not escape the fate of losing her father in another world. When Song Qing was sighing about the fickleness of fate, he suddenly heard the 2 servants talking mysteriously. I don't know what happened to that swordsman of Jinyang. He never allowed people from the village to step into his yard. Even servants like us can't get in. Is there any secret inside? Shu, do you want to die? In this world, the less you know, the safer you are. If you're too curious, you might be killed. Yes. Boss, you're right. After the 2 left, Song Qing showed an expression of I knew it. It seems that this handsome swordsman of Jinyang has a lot of secrets in private. According to the information revealed in their conversation, Song Qing quickly found the yard where Xiao Ban lived. He could not help but be startled. There was no light in the whole yard. In the dark night, only the sounds of various insects could be heard. Apart from that, the whole yard was quiet and strange. It was as if a giant beast was waiting for Song Qing to walk into its trap. Song Qing smiled disdainfully. I want to see what kind of dragon's pool or tiger's den it is. He was skilled and bold. Soon, he quietly slid into the yard like a fallen leaf. If someone else saw him, they would be amazed that his lightness skill had reached the peak of perfection. Song Qing did not rush in recklessly. Instead, he slowly released his qi and gradually imprinted the situation of the whole yard in his mind. Suddenly, Song Qing's expression changed. There were 4 people in a room not far from here. They were all first-class martial artists in Jianghu. Song Qing quickly and carefully moved closer to them. He pricked up his ears and listened carefully. Aren't we doing too much? It's better to be careful. But King Xiao is an upright person. Aren't we a little too despicable? There were men and women in the room. Song Qing listened intermittently. When he heard these words, he was suddenly shocked. Who were these people? Did they want to harm Xiao Feng? In this world, Song Qing and Xiao Feng did not have a deep relationship. But in his previous life, Song Qing had a deep relationship with him. In the whole world of gold, all the protagonists were full of all kinds of things. They had all kinds of adventures and cheats. Beautiful women threw themselves at them. It was difficult for Song Qing to have any good feelings towards them. But there was one exception, and that was Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng's peerless martial arts were all trained by himself since he was young. Moreover, he was different from the other main characters who lived like wild cranes and idle clouds. Xiao Feng was extremely talented in leadership. In the Battle of Xingzilin, when he faced the rebellion of the gang members, he silently eliminated the disaster without a trace. In the end, it was all for naught. He had only lost to fate. "Who is it?" A cold shout rang out. Very quickly, a palm force that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas came over. Song Qing hurriedly exchanged a palm strike with the other party. He took the opportunity to retreat to the courtyard. But because of this delay, the other person in the room had already blocked his path of retreat. A long sword danced with a cold glint as it stabbed towards Song Qing's back. The other party's timing was too good. It was as if Song Qing himself was moving towards the tip of the sword. When he reacted, the tip of the sword was already less than an inch away from his back. Feeling the faint sword qi coming from the sword, Song Qing's body had goosebumps. He hurriedly sank his qi into his dantian. His whole body moved in the air. He dodged this fatal sword attack in the nick of time. He took the opportunity to press his palm towards the chest of the person. The other party was shocked that Song Qing had dodged his sword attack at an impossible angle. Before he could react, Song Qing's counterattack had already landed on his chest. Chapter 463. Just now, when Song Qingshu's palm imprinted on her chest, the soft sensation from his palm forced him to retract his palm in a hurry. Releasing and retracting his internal energy had caused Song Qingshu to suffer serious internal injuries. However, Song Qingshu didn't regret it. He wasn't a bloodthirsty person, and he couldn't bear to kill women. If he had slapped a woman's chest and caused her chest to cave in, he would have felt guilty. Luckily, the internal energy that Song Qingshu cultivated, whether it was the 9-yin manual, the scripture of divine radiating light, or the blissful Zen, were all top-notch internal energy skills that specialized in healing injuries. Now, Song Qingshu had cultivated his internal energy to a very miraculous level. After a short moment of rest, his internal injuries were almost healed. Turning his attention back to the black-clothed person in front of him. She was dressed entirely in black, and even half of her face was covered by a black veil. If it wasn't for Song Qingshu coincidentally pressing his hand on her chest, it would have been hard to tell her gender. But now that he knew she was a woman, after a second look, Song Qingshu finally noticed something else. This woman was extremely tall, and even more eye-catching were her ridiculously long legs. How blind could he not have recognized her as a woman? Wait, why do these legs look so familiar? Song Qingshu suddenly realized. Wasn't this the beautiful Liao swordsman, Yellow Nanxian? Miss, your long legs are just like Lu Yan's exaggerated chest. Even if you cover your face, people will still be able to recognize you. Song Qingshu really wanted to say this to break the awkward silence, but after thinking about it, he decided against it. After all, he had just taken advantage of her. Saying something like that would make him want to get beaten up. It was better to pretend that he didn't recognize her. Yellow Nanxian was of noble birth, and on top of that, she was a rare martial arts prodigy in the Liao royal family. At a young age, she became the strongest in the royal family. None of the rich young masters in Liao dared to mess with her. Immortal Yellow Nan had never even been touched by a man in her life. Who would have thought that just now, her soft breast would be grabbed by a strange man? She was just about to draw her sword and chop the culprit into minced meat when she suddenly realized that it was Song Qingshu. After interacting with Song Qingshu several times, she had a good impression of this man who was highly skilled in martial arts. However, having a good impression was one thing, and being taken advantage of by him was another. She couldn't just let it go after suffering such a big loss, right? But I can't beat him. Yellow Nanxian was very depressed. Last time on Divine Dragon Island, she wasn't his match. After not seeing him for a while, she ran into him at the inn and found that his martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. Not only did he single-handedly take on several Mongolian grandmasters, he didn't even have the upper hand against the southern courtyard's King Xiaofeng. Just now, she had clearly felt the surging power from his palm. Yellow Nanxian thought she was going to die today, but who would have thought that as soon as he touched her body, he would retract his power? This kind of precise control of inner energy was simply unheard of. His inner energy had most likely reached the realm of being able to move at will, a realm that countless martial artists could only dream of. Your Excellency's martial arts are really good. I was just distracted for a moment, and you discovered me. The two of them stared at each other. Song Qing-shu felt that he couldn't keep silent like this. He quickly changed the topic and stared at the person who had just exchanged blows with him. Unsurprisingly, that person was also masked, but Song Qing-shu had fought with Xiao Ban before, so he easily recognized his true identity. It was the middle of the night, but he was dressed like a thief in his own courtyard. It was obvious that he was up to no good. Song Qing-shu immediately felt a headache coming on. Who would have thought that Xiao Ban would suddenly put on a defensive posture? He smiled and made an inviting gesture. So it's Prince Song who has graced us with his presence. Everything today was a misunderstanding. Young master, please do as you please. Song Qing-shu was stunned. You're letting me go just like that? This time, he had come to investigate Xiao Ban's identity. Although he had quickly exposed himself, Yelun Nancian was here, and the other person was undoubtedly Yeluqi. Thinking about Xiao Ban's surname, his identity was obvious. Who would have thought that the grand hero of Jinyang was actually a Khitan, or even a descendant of the Xiao clan? Once this news was leaked, his decades of painstaking efforts would immediately be destroyed. Song Qing-shu thought that he would have a tough battle today, but the other party actually let him go like this. Xiao Ban took off his mask, revealing his true face, lightly saying, "Young master is a smart person. You naturally understand that some things won't be beneficial to anyone. You're so sure that I won't say it?" Song Qing-shu asked curiously. Xiao Ban shook his head, mysteriously saying, "In the future, young master will understand that we have never been enemies." "Is that so?" Song Qing-shu sneered. "That time in Shengjing, you wanted to take my life." "Ah." Xiao Ban didn't deny it, nonchalantly saying, "That was then, this is now. At that time, some things haven't happened yet, so we naturally can't be considered friends." "Then now we're friends?" Song Qing-shu was confused. In any case, in this old man's heart, young master is a friend. As for young master, in the future, when you understand everything, I believe you will also recognize me as a friend. Xiao Ban gently replied. "Then I'm really leaving?" Song Qing-shu was completely bewildered, but Xiao Ban really didn't show any hostility, which made him even more confused. Putting everything else aside, the two of them were going to fight tomorrow. If Xiao Ban didn't take advantage of such a good opportunity to make him stay, then wouldn't his chances of winning be much smaller in a one-on-one battle tomorrow? When passing by Yellow Nancian, Song Qing-shu's figure paused. With his keen senses, he noticed that Yellow Nancian's figure was slightly trembling, clearly hesitating. Song Qing-shu suddenly revealed a trace of an evil smile, and with a voice that only the two of them could hear, he said, "Not bad." As soon as his voice fell, his figure disappeared more than 10 zhang away, leaving behind a string of complacent laughter. Watching Song Qing-shu leave, Xiao Ban suddenly said, "See, Nurture, the commotion right now is too big to avoid being exposed. You two go back first." "Yes." The two of them bowed. In her heart, Yellow Nancian was thinking about the hateful smile on Song Qing-shu's face when he left, and her heart was filled with hatred. What a bastard. When everyone left the courtyard, Xiao Ban walked back to the side room and looked at the woman who walked out from the inner room, saying, "You can resist not coming out to see him. It seems like you have made up your mind." If Song Qing-shu was still here, he would definitely exclaim in surprise, because this charming woman was the Divine Dragon Cult's cult master's wife, Su Quan. Su Quan nodded and said with an expressionless face, "That's right. I will go back with you to contest for the Emperor's position." A stone in his heart was lifted. Xiao Ban finally let out a gratified smile and said, "You are right to think that way. Look at those women around Song Qing-shu. One is the amazed sect master who is as famous as Shaolin and Wudong. One is a princess, and the last one has the entire Golden Snake camp as her dowry. What can you give him? The Divine Dragon Cult is already in his pocket, and all you have left is a beautiful body. But which of those women isn't a stunning beauty? Furthermore, you are Hong Ontong's widow, what position will you have in the future among the women in Song Qingshu's harem? Will it be different after becoming the empress? Su Quan asked coldly. Chapter 464. After Song Qingshu left, he was secretly delighted. Since Yelu Nanxian is too embarrassed to reveal her identity, then I'll pretend I don't know anything and let her worry about herself. As for what Xiao Ban was planning, Song Qingshu still didn't know, but he could feel that the other really didn't seem to have any enmity towards him. This is really strange. The more Song Qingshu thought about it, the more he felt a headache coming on. Just as he was hesitating whether or not to go back and take a look, a few clanging sounds came from the forest in the distance. It sounded like someone was playing a zither. The place where the zither was being played was very far away. If it wasn't for the fact that Song Qingshu's martial arts were high, he probably wouldn't have been able to hear the indistinct sounds of the zither in the wind. Song Qingshu was startled. Why would someone be playing the zither in the middle of nowhere? His first thought was that Zhao Min was preparing some kind of plot again, luring him into a trap. But after listening for a while, he denied this guess. Although he didn't understand music, he could still tell that this zither and Zhao Min's were two different styles. The sound of the zither continued. It was very elegant, and after a while a few gentle flute sounds were mixed in with the zither. The sound of the zither was calm and even, mixed in with the quiet flute. It was even more moving. The zither and flute sounds seemed to be asking and answering each other, gradually moving closer. The sound of the zither gradually became louder, while the flute sounds gradually became lower. But the sound of the flute was low and continuous, like gossamer threads floating in the wind. It was endless, adding to the soul-stirring feeling. Someone playing the zither in the middle of the night. If it's not a female ghost, then it's a demon. Regardless, I want to see it for myself. Song Qingshu was now very skilled and daring. He couldn't resist the curiosity in his heart. His figure flashed, and he headed towards the source of the sound. Although the sound of the zither was far away, Song Qingshu's lightness kung fu was superb. In a short while he had already crossed 2 mountains. Faintly, he could see 2 figures in the forest. Song Qingshu was slightly startled and approached even more carefully. With Song Qingshu's current martial arts, if he deliberately hid his tracks, the number of people in the Jianghu who would be able to detect him could be counted on one hand. Obviously, these 2 were not among them. Song Qingshu quietly hid in a lush tree a few feet away from the 2, pushing aside the leaves, and finally saw the appearance of the person playing the zither. He couldn't help but feel depressed. It turned out that the person playing the zither was not a female ghost, nor was it a demon, but a man with a long face, sharp eyebrows, and thin lips. It was Ling Hu Chong, whom he had met several times. If Ling Hu Chong is here, then the other one must be Ren Yingying. Except for the late Chu Yang and Lu Zhengfeng, I'm afraid no one would be so ostentatious to play zither and flute together in the middle of the night. If Ling Hucheng is here, then the other must be Ren Yingying. Other than the late Chu Yang and Lu Zhengfeng, I'm afraid no one would be so ostentatious as to play the zither and flute together in the middle of the night. He saw her leaning on a green bamboo, delicate and timid, her elegant eyebrows slightly furrowed, as if she was deeply worried. Song Qingshu suddenly laughed involuntarily. She can't be worrying about how to deal with this bastard, right? As if confirming his guess, he heard Ling Hucheng ask with concern, Yingying, your sound of the flute seems to be mixed with a hint of melancholy. Recently, I've felt that something is wrong with you. Is there something troubling you? Ren Yingying raised her head in confusion. Brother Chong, what did you say? Ling Hucheng frowned and could only repeat his question. Ren Yingying had an expression of wanting to say something, but finally shook her head and forced a smile. It's nothing. You also know the situation on Blackwood Cliff. Is it really just that? Ling Hucheng looked at her suspiciously. What else could it be? Ren Yingying smiled unnaturally. Ling Hucheng wanted to continue asking, but suddenly heard a burst of arrogant laughter. Ha ha ha! You silly boy, it's clearly this little girl who has someone else in her heart, but you still foolishly ask. Ren Yingying's face paled, but Ling Hucheng was furious. Who are you, scoundrel? He had already drawn his sword and stabbed towards the direction of the voice. On the other side, Song Qing-shu had a strange expression. This voice, could it be? Before Ling Huchong's sword arrived, the person hiding in the dark had already jumped out. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding leaves were like sharp blades, whistling towards Ling Huchong with a whistling sound. "Brother Chong, be careful." Ren Yingying's beautiful face immediately paled. She didn't expect the opponent's martial arts to be so high, and it seemed that he was no weaker than her father. Ling Huchong was also shocked and quickly used the solitary 9 swords breaking arrow technique, cleverly picking off the blade-like leaves one by one. When the person saw that Ling Huchong was able to break his technique with only a sword, he was slightly startled and then praised, "The solitary 9 swords really lives up to its name." "Who are you, sir?" Ren Yingying was worried that something would happen to Ling Huchong and quickly ran over to his side to protect him. Looking at the person, she saw that he was tall, had a high nose, deep eyes, and a brown beard. He was full of heroic spirit, and his eyes were like knives and swords, very sharp. When Ren Yingying looked at him, she felt a burning pain in her eyes and couldn't help but secretly click her tongue. Song Qing-shu was speechless, wearing a white robe in the middle of the night, as if he was afraid that others wouldn't see him. Who else could it be other than Ouyang Feng? "You don't need to know who I am. You can only blame yourself for not sleeping in the middle of the night and coming here to talk about love." As soon as Ouyang Feng's voice fell, he rushed toward Ren Yingying like a cannonball. Ouyang Feng knew that Ling Huchong's sword technique was exquisite, and it would not be easy to defeat him in a short time. On the other hand, Ren Yingying was obviously easier to deal with. In order to save Ren Yingying, Ling Huchong's moves would naturally have flaws, and then it would be much easier to deal with him. Sure enough, Ling Huchong turned pale with fright, but the solitary 9 swords was best at attacking the enemy's vital points, so he quickly stabbed his sword at a tricky angle, aiming for Ouyang Feng's vital points. If Ouyang Feng continued to attack Ren Yingying would naturally be unable to escape, but he would also be in danger of dying. Ouyang Feng obviously did not expect that Ling Huchong would react so quickly, and at the same time, he also made the best choice. Of course, Ouyang Feng did not want to die with Ren Yingying, so he quickly dodged to the side and slapped Ling Huchong's sword with his palm. Ling Huchong suddenly felt as if he was struck by lightning, and the long sword in his hand fell out of his hand. Ouyang Feng's smile suddenly froze. It turned out that Ling Huchong had actually used his left hand to grab the long sword that had been shaken out of his hand in a split second, and then swung his sword again. Ouyang Feng's body violently retreated several feet before he could avoid this strange attack. "Kid, you have some skill." Ouyang Feng originally thought that Ling Huchong was only relying on his exquisite sword technique, but he did not expect that his combat talent was so high that he was somewhat flustered with 2 consecutive moves. If Ouyang Feng knew about Ling Huchong's growth, he would not have underestimated him from the beginning. It should be known that from the beginning, Ling Huchong was always challenging those of a higher level, and his results were quite good. The protagonists of the Golden Book were clearly divided into 2 factions. One was the academic faction, represented by people like Duan Yu, whose theoretical strength was very heaven-defying, but their performance in actual combat was not satisfactory. The other was the practical faction, whose biggest characteristic was that from the beginning, they were engaged in fierce battles, and sometimes they were baptized by life and death battles. Xiaofeng, Yang Guo, and Ling Huchong were the most representative of these 2 factions. Chapter 465. Who are you? Why are you making things difficult for the Sun Moon sect? Ren Yingying had good eyesight. She could tell that the old man in front of her was an unparalleled martial artist. She was worried that Ling Huchong would be at a disadvantage if the conflict continued. She hurriedly introduced herself, hoping to turn hostility into friendship. "Hee, I hate scheming little girls the most," Ouyang Feng said in an unfriendly tone as he recalled how badly he had been harmed by Huang Rong in the past. "Others may fear the Sun Moon sect, but I don't care about that *T sect at all." Ren Yingying's expression changed drastically when she heard his tough tone. She knew that today's matter would not end well. Ling Hucheng had a lot of battle experience, so he immediately held his sword horizontally in front of him and focused on defending. As expected, Ouyang Feng's body suddenly burst forward to attack. Ling Hucheng's sword was also extremely fast. Regardless of the angle or strength, it was exquisite beyond compare. Good swordsmanship. Ouyang Feng's palms did not dodge and directly met the sword's edge. When the two collided, there was a sound of metal and stone colliding. Ouyang Feng took advantage of Ling Hucheng's momentary daze to turn around and attack his chest. Seeing Ling Hucheng hurriedly use his palms to meet the enemy, Ouyang Feng sneered. Ling Hucheng's swordsmanship was excellent. Ouyang Feng was one of the 5 masters with his toad merit, but Ling Hucheng dared to meet his palms. He must be tired of living. Who knew that when the fists and palms met, Ouyang Feng could feel the true qi pouring out of his fists. He was stunned for a moment, and then remembered Yanqing's strange behavior during the competition. So it's old Demon Ren's great art of absorbing stars. I want to see how much you can absorb. Unlike Duan Yanqing, Ouyang Feng knew that martial arts could not be invincible and flawless. If the great art of absorbing stars was so heaven-defying, Ren Wuxing would have been recognized as the world's #1 by now. He would not have been usurped by Dongfang Bubi. In a split second, Ouyang Feng guessed the flaw of the great art of absorbing stars. Instead of retreating, he advanced and let the vigorous inner force in his body surge out and rush into his opponent's meridians. Ling Hucheng immediately groaned and pushed Ouyang Feng away with a palm. His face turned green and white. "Brother Cheng, what happened to you?" Ren Ying hurriedly ran to Ling Hucheng's side and asked with concern. However, just as her fingers touched Ling Hucheng's arm, his body swayed, and he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Ouyang Feng's face was also somewhat pale. It was obvious that he had used up quite a bit of his internal energy. However, thinking about how he had heavily injured the other party, Ouyang Feng could not help but laugh out loud. How could this old man's internal energy be so easily absorbed? Song Qing-shu, who was watching the fight from the side, didn't know what exactly happened between them, but with his martial art cultivation, he could roughly guess what happened. He couldn't help but nod to himself. No wonders Wu Linchan was able to defeat Ren Wuxing using his ice true qi in the original work. It looks like when he uses the absorbing stars great technique, although he can absorb his opponent's internal energy, his meridians are also exposed to his opponent. Most people's first reaction when faced with their own true qi gushing out violently would definitely be extreme terror, and then they would desperately try to retract their inner qi. Unexpectedly, they would become lambs waiting to be slaughtered, and they would only become weaker and weaker until they were completely powerless to resist. If they were to make a prompt decision the moment their internal energy was absorbed, they could directly send all their internal energy into the other party's meridians. Not only would they be able to escape, but they could also seriously injure the caster. Of course, there was a prerequisite for this, and that was that the person whose internal energy was being absorbed must have reached a certain realm. After all, the absorbing star's great technique was considered a divine art, so it naturally had a way to defend against counterattacks. If the person whose internal energy was being absorbed did not have enough internal energy, then even if they cut off all means of retreat, they would only be giving up their internal energy. Ying, hurry up and leave. I'll hold him here for now. A trace of determination flashed in Ling Hucheng's eyes. He was well aware of his own injuries, and he was no longer a match for the old man in front of him. The only thing he could do was delay the other party and fight for a chance for Ren Ying to escape. "No, I'll hold him back. You go first. I'm the holy maiden of Sun Moon's sect. He may not hurt me." Ren Ying drew her dagger and shielded Ling Hucheng behind her. Seeing the two of them giving way to each other, Ouyang Feng couldn't help but laugh out loud. "You two young people are really interesting. There's clearly a rift between you two, and now you're putting on a show like this? If the two of you truly believed in each other's feelings, you should be together in life and death. Why would you be so distant and polite?" Ren Ying's face darkened. There had always been a thorn in her heart, because she knew that the woman Ling Hu Chong loved the most was his little junior sister, and her innocence had unfortunately been tarnished by that bastard. At this time, she rushed out to cover the retreat, but more than that, she was disheartened and had thoughts of self-destruction. Ling Hu Chang's heart was also filled with guilt. In front of Ren Yingying, he could always talk cheerfully and wittily, and even tease her occasionally. However, in front of Yu Shan, he was always at a loss. Sometimes he was so worried about personal gains and losses that he couldn't even speak clearly. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, he would quietly ask himself who he loved the most. The vague answer in his heart made him not dare to continue thinking about it. However, Ren Yingying loved him deeply, and he knew that he would never be able to repay her in this lifetime. He was also a straightforward and upright person, so he really couldn't bear the torment of his conscience. If he could save her by sacrificing himself this time, he would be free. Have you two finished discussing? I'm going to make my move. Seeing that a few words from him were enough to make the two give up the thought of escaping, Ouyang Feng's mouth revealed an almost imperceptible smile. Ren Yingying knew that with Ling Hu Chang's personality, he would never abandon her and escape alone. However, she also didn't want to abandon Ling Hu Chang and live alone. Clenching her teeth, she didn't wait for Ling Hu Chang's reply and waved her sword to attack Ouyang Feng. Ouyang Feng's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but praise, "You really are an amazing woman." However, he didn't hesitate at all. After a few moves, he found a flaw and flicked his finger at the back of Ren Yingying's sword. She couldn't hold the sword in her hand any longer, and it flew far away into the nearby grass. Ouyang Feng stretched out his finger to seal Ren Yingying's acupuncture point, but Ren Yingying's figure suddenly retreated, causing him to press down on empty air. Ouyang Feng's expression changed, and he looked in the direction where Song Qingshu was hiding. When he saw Song Qingshu's appearance, he couldn't help but be startled. "I haven't seen you for a few days, but your martial arts have improved again." Song Qingshu smiled slightly. To be able to receive Mister's praise, this little one is flattered. Ren Yingying finally came back to her senses and discovered that she had just been pulled to her side by Song Qingshu's dragon catcher hand and controlling crane skill. Although she was shocked by the depth of his skills and how he could easily pull a living person over from a distance of more than 10 feet, she still didn't have a good expression on her face and coldly said, "Let go of your stinky hand." Song Qingshu didn't mind and withdrew his hand from her belt. "Is this how you treat your savior? Who needs you to save me?" Ren Yingying's pretty face was so cold that it seemed as if ice shards could fall from it. For some reason, the two of them deliberately lowered their voices, and Ling Hu Chang's hearing was affected by his heavy injuries, so he couldn't hear their conversation. Although he recognized Song Qingshu as the person who had been with Dongfang Booby on Blackwood Cliff, he had still saved Ren Yingying, and Ling Hu Chang had always been clear about kindness and grudges. He cupped his hands and said, "Many thanks to Prince Song for saving me." Chapter 466. Brother Ling Hu sure has a good bearing. Song Qingshu was also embarrassed by Ling Hu Chang's enthusiasm. He smiled awkwardly. "I have a good relationship with Miss Ron. Saving her is something I should do, Seeing Song Qingshu take advantage of her in front of Ling Hu Chang, Ren Yingying's teeth were about to shatter. Unfortunately, it wasn't convenient for her to tell Ling Hu Chang the reason, so she could only fiercely glare at Song Qingshu. If looks could kill, Song Qingshu would have already been executed by 1,000 cuts. Ouyang Feng wasn't as honest as Ling Hu Chang. As a wily old fox, he keenly sensed that there might be some unspeakable secret between Song Qingshu and Ren Yingying. He clicked his tongue inwardly. "My cour can be considered a playboy, but he's nothing compared to this kid. From the time I met him until now, the girls around him are always different, and all of them are heavenly beauties. Now, even the holy nun of Sun Moon sect is having an affair with him. Does he have the legendary ability to take a person's virginity from 1,000 miles away?" Ouyang Feng smiled knowingly. "I consider Prince Song a friend." Since Miss Ren and you are old friends, I won't make things difficult for her. I just don't know if this young Master Ling Hu is Prince Song's friend. This, Song Qingshu hesitated, but Ling Hu Chong answered first. I have no friendship with him. Ling Hu Chong was a proud man. How could he be so cowardly as to form a relationship with a stranger? Ouyang Feng laughed. Young Master Ling Hu is indeed courageous. I hope you'll be careful. I'll make my move now. As soon as he finished speaking, his fist was less than 3 feet away from Ling Hu Chong. Ling Hu Chong hastily gathered his internal energy and brandished his sword to parry. When Ren Yingying heard Ling Hu Chong's reply, she already knew she was in trouble. She became even more anxious when she saw Ling Hu Chong barely managing to fend off the attacks. She wanted to rush over to help him several times, but Song Qingshu silently stopped her. Let me go. Ren Yingying glared at Song Qingshu. Song Qingshu shook his head slightly. Even if I let you go, the two of you together won't be a match for him. Why throw your lives away in vain? It's none of your business. Even if I die, I want to die with Brother Chong. Seeing that Song Qingshu was still standing in front of her, Ren Yingying raised her dagger and stabbed at him. You don't have to be so cruel, Song Qingshu said as he dodged. It said that a day as husband and wife means 100 days of love. Why are you so cold-hearted? Ren Yingying was so angry that her whole body trembled. Who wants to be your wife for a day? We were so intimate on Blackwood Cliff. I thought only husband and wife would do those things. Song Qingshu admired his own sense of humor. It seemed that he was more suited to be a bully who molested innocent women. Shut up. Ren Yingying guiltily glanced at Ling Hu Chong. Seeing that he was concentrating on breaking down Ouyang Feng's moves, she finally relaxed. Don't mention that. Then what do I get out of it? Song Qingshu looked at her playfully. What do you want? Ren Yingying sheathed her sword. She knew that there was a huge gap between her martial arts and her opponents. She didn't want to waste her effort. Of course I want some hush money. Song Qingshu's smile was extremely strange. Seeing that he wanted money, Ren Yingying let out a long sigh of relief. She was the dignified saintess of Sun Moon sect. Although she wasn't rich enough to rival a country, she never lacked money. Thinking that Song Qingshu was a greedy person, she couldn't help but feel a trace of disdain. How much do you want? Name your price. Song Qingshu shook his head slightly and said with a smile, Saintess, you might have misunderstood me. My mouth is a little special. Money can't seal it. Ren Yingying was stunned. Then what can seal it? That thing isn't very rare. Saintess, you can definitely take it out. The smile on Song Qingshu's face grew even wider. Ren Yingying suddenly felt that something was wrong. What exactly is it? It's actually very simple to seal my mouth. All you need is a young girl's soft lips to press against mine. My mouth will naturally be unable to bear to speak anymore. As Song Qingshu spoke, he even glanced at Ren Yingying's moist red lips. Ren Yingying's expression immediately changed. Shameless. Don't even think about it. Song Qingshu's expression turned serious. He quickly said, What if I can help you save Ling Hu Chong? Ren Yingying was instantly stunned. Her expression was uncertain. It was obvious that she was fiercely struggling in her heart. She glanced at the battle situation not far away. Ling Hu Chong was now only relying on the ingenuity of the 9 strategies beyond the swords to hold on bitterly. However, it was likely that he would not last more than 20 moves before he would die with a grievance on the spot. Could it be that she had no choice but to watch this happen? Eldest Miss, you better make up your mind quickly. In another 10 moves, I won't be able to save your brother Chong even if I want to. Song Qingshu timely added fuel to the fire. Remember what you've said. 2 crystal tears rolled down Ren Yingying's beautiful eyes. In the next moment, she had already moved her head forward and kissed Song Qingshu's lips. Song Qingshu only felt a young girl's scent assaulting his nose. He couldn't help but extend the tip of his tongue to pry open Ren Yingying's tightly closed teeth and directly invade her sweet lips. Ren Yingying's almond-shaped eyes instantly widened. She opened her mouth and bit Song Qingshu's tongue. Hiss! Song Qingshu hurriedly retreated and wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. He wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "Now our flesh and blood can be considered to have intermingled." After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Run Yingying's reaction. He leaped toward the other side of the battle and shouted, "Brother Linghu, I'll help you." Run Yingying hurriedly spat. Unfortunately, her mouth still contained the remnants of Song Qingshu's scent. Thinking of the pain, her pink face became deathly pale. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Linghu Chong, who was previously exhausted from defending, finally caught his breath. He hurriedly cupped his hands towards Song Qingshu, who was holding Ouyang Feng, and said, "Thank you, Brother Song, for helping me." He didn't know that just now, his beloved, whom he had always respected like a fairy, had been bullied by his grateful brother Song. Song Qingshu smiled faintly. He couldn't help but think of Nan Lan and Luo Bing. In this aspect, he was really similar to Wei Xiaobao. They both liked to fish in troubled waters. Ouyang Feng had seen everything clearly. Even though he was called the Western Poison, he couldn't help but admire Song Qingshu's shamelessness. Seeing Song Qingshu rush out to save Linghu Chong, although Ouyang Feng didn't hear the conversation between him and Ren Yingying, he could more or less guess the ins and outs of the whole matter. He quietly gave Song Qingshu a look and gradually retreated. Song Qingshu understood his meaning very well. However, Linghu Chong was also a top-notch expert. If he brazenly fixed the match, perhaps Linghu Chong would think that it was all planned. Song Qingshu was a typical example of a prostitute who still wanted to maintain a chastity. Since he was acting, he had to go through with it. Therefore, he attacked Ouyang Feng with all his strength. Ouyang Feng sensed the strength in his palms. He couldn't help but feel annoyed. "Do you really think you're invincible?" Therefore, he didn't hold back anymore. In a flash, the two of them exchanged dozens of blows. The surrounding trees were swept by the wind from their palms and were broken into pieces. Linghu Chong was speechless. This bastard's martial arts are really high. After Ren Yingying recovered from her daze, she quickly rushed to Linghu Chong's side and helped him to the side. If he was swept by the wind from their palms, he would really want to cry, but have no tears. Prince Song's martial arts are really high. Linghu Chong had always been an open-minded person. Song Qingshu had saved him twice, and the unhappiness he had experienced at Blackwood Cliff had long since been thrown to the back of his mind. Now, all that was left was sincere admiration. In my opinion, he must have practiced some kind of evil martial arts. Otherwise, how could his martial arts be so high at such a young age? Thinking of everything that Song Qingshu had done to her, Ren Yingying angrily cursed. She didn't know that her casual guess was actually not far from the truth. Linghu Chong laughed. "Speaking of evil, what kind of martial arts can compare to the astral-absorbing great technique that your father and I cultivate?" Chapter 467. Linghu Chong didn't know how he offended her, so he could only say, "Oh," and suppress his doubts in his heart. Ren Yingying also felt that her tone was a bit harsh, so she quickly said, "Brother Chong, let's get out of here." "But young Master Song," Linghu Chong was just about to say that Song Qingshu had come to his rescue, yet he had abandoned him and fled. It was truly unjust. However, he suddenly remembered Ren Yingying's warning just now and immediately shut his mouth. However, his expression was one of disapproval. It was clear that he was unwilling to escape alone. Let them fight. Ren Yingying didn't want to see Song Qingshu's figure again, so she pulled Linghu Chong away. Linghu Chong said seriously, "Yingying, this is your fault." Unexpectedly, before he finished, Ren Yingying burst into tears. "You obviously don't know anything, but you're blaming me." Linghu Chong panicked. "Yingying, what happened?" "He molested me." Ren Yingying blurted out, but she regretted it as soon as she said it. "What?" Linghu Chong was furious. No matter how open-minded a man was, he was always stingy in this aspect. He struggled to stand up. "I'm going to kill him." Ren Yingying panicked. "Brother Chong, don't go. I was lying to you." Linghu Chong paused and looked at her in confusion. "Lying to me?" Seeing Linghu Chong's reaction, Ren Yingying didn't dare to tell him the truth. She quickly said, I just saw that you didn't leave, so I was worried that something might happen if I stayed here. Ling Hu Chong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ying, don't joke about a famous woman. I'll go with you. Although Ling Hu Chong paid attention to morality, he wasn't an idiot who didn't know how to adapt. Between a lover and a strange man, even an idiot would know how to choose. Hearing Ling Hu Chong mention her reputation, Ren Yingying's face turned pale, and she forced a smile. Let's go. Seeing the two disappear in the distance, Ouyang Feng couldn't help but curse. They're all gone. Who are you acting for? Song Qing-shu quickly stopped and smiled awkwardly. Sir, you know me. I wouldn't play with you if I didn't need your help. Ouyang Feng snorted. Song Qing-shu quickly patted his chest and said, I owe Mr. Ouyang a favor today. As long as Mr. Ouyang says the word, I'll go through fire and water, and this song won't even frown. Ouyang Feng smiled faintly. I hope you still remember that when the time comes. Song Qing-shu, on the other hand, looked relaxed. What are you talking about, Mr. Ouyang? If you and I join hands, we can do whatever we want in this vast world. Why would I frown? Ouyang Feng smiled but didn't reply. He changed the topic and said, You're quite capable, kid. Every time we meet, you have a different woman by your side. Now, you even have the saintess of Sun Moon God sect. We haven't done it yet, have we? Song Qing-shu smiled shyly. Ouyang Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. It's his fault for participating in the Golden Snake Conference. Ouyang Feng smiled faintly, as if he was talking about something normal. Song Qing-shu was stunned for a moment, then realized that Yang Guo was Ling Hu Chong's opponent tomorrow. Song Qing-shu was stunned for a moment before he realized that Ling Hu Chong's opponent the next day was coincidentally Yang Guo. You're cheating, Song Qing-shu said gloomily. There's no rule against it. Ouyang Feng answered matter-of-factly. Don't forget the real purpose of the Golden Snake Camp holding this conference. The competition is secondary, and the most important thing is to choose a strong leader. Isn't a strong force also a part of strength? You're right. Song Qing-shu's face suddenly changed. You won't help Yang Guo by blackmailing me, will you? Ouyang Feng smiled non-committally. You have to guarantee that you can enter the finals first. Song Qing-shu also smiled. Compared to me, I think you should care more about Yang Guo. His chances of entering the finals are much slimmer than mine. Ouyang Feng frowned, but he didn't refute it. Obviously, he agreed with this statement. That girl called Ah Qing is really powerful. Did Mr. Ouyang claim to be the best in the world all these years? Why are you afraid of that little girl? Song Qing-shu teased. Ouyang Feng snorted coldly. You don't have to provoke me. If it's a martial arts competition, I'm indeed no match for that girl. But in a fight of life and death, it's hard to say who will win. His tone naturally exuded arrogance. Song Qing-shu did not suspect that Ouyang Feng's words were false. After all, his nickname was Western Poison, and his reputation for using poison was greater than his martial arts. If he really wanted to take advantage of the situation, Ah Qing might have been poisoned before she even saw him. Suddenly, Song Qing-shu's expression turned cold, and he looked at him suspiciously. Don't tell me you want me to help you kill Ah Qing? He made up his mind that if Ouyang Feng nodded, he would run away even if he was laughed at by Ouyang Feng. What a joke! If he really killed Ah Qing, he and Ouyang Feng would both be severely injured, and their cultivation would drop by half. How could he do such a thing? Moreover, Ah Qing was such a cute girl. He didn't want to kill her. Look at how scared you are. Ouyang Feng looked at him with disdain, clearly seeing through his thoughts. Who was the one who said that if we join forces, we can do whatever we want in the world? He. Song Qing-shu could only play dumb. Don't worry, I'm not an idiot. Moreover, that little monk called Shuju is not simple. I don't want to work so hard just to make a wedding dress for someone else. Ouyang Feng snorted. So you're planning on letting both of them suffer? Song Qing-shu suddenly realized that Shuju was indeed very mysterious. The 72 ultimate skills of Shaolin that he showed today was just the tip of the iceberg. No one knew what his real cards were. If Ah Qing fought with him, she might not be able to win. Then what do you want me to help you with? Song Qing-shu became more and more confused. Something good. While speaking, Ouyang Feng had already brought Song Qing-shu to a hidden cave entrance. He pointed at the cave and said, "You're lucky, boy." Song Qing-shu looked in the direction he was pointing and saw a woman lying quietly in a pile of withered grass. It was obvious that her acupuncture points had been sealed. Even though she was lying flat on her back, the clothes on her chest still bulged. Just by looking at it from afar, Song Qing-shu could feel the amazing elasticity and touch. His eyes moved down slightly and saw the graceful curve between her waist and buttocks. Even though Song Qing-shu had experienced many battles, he had to admit that she was definitely a woman among women. She was the object that all men dreamed of in bed. Chapter 468. Holy sh*T. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but curse in his previous life. "You actually caught Huang Rong. What's the fuss?" Ouyang Feng looked at him disdainfully. "This be *tch killed my cur and made me crazy for more than 10 years. I wanted to teach her a lesson for a long time. Unfortunately, she always had Guijing and Huang Yaosher by her side. It wasn't easy to deal with her. Now that she's alone, if not now, when?" Hearing Ouyang Feng's words, Huang Rong's face showed a trace of regret. Before she left, Brother Jing had warned her that this trip was likely to be dangerous. Unfortunately, in order to find Guofu, she didn't take his words seriously. She thought that with her years of dog-beating stick technique, she would have no problem protecting herself. She didn't expect that Ouyang Feng, a grandmaster, would disregard his identity and help her. "Is this what you want me to help you with?" Song Qing-shu swallowed and said with some difficulty. Hearing his words, Huang Rong's eyes suddenly lit up. Ouyang Feng and her had an unresolvable hatred. No matter how glib her tongue was, she couldn't move him. But Song Qing-shu was different. He was definitely much easier to deal with than Ouyang Feng. Moreover, he had saved her once during the day. He should have a chivalrous spirit in his bones. "What? You're so proud of yourself. First, you were scared when you heard Ah Qing, and now you're scared for such a small matter?" Ouyang Feng looked at him mockingly. "It's not a matter of being scared. Song Qing-shu had a headache. But I really can't help you with this kind of thing." Although Ouyang Feng didn't explicitly say how he wanted his help, but with his hatred for Huang Rong, it was easy to guess that he had asked a famous playboy like him for help. "Do you know what I want you to do?" Ouyang Feng said with a faint smile. "Don't play dumb with me." Song Qing-shu spat. Huang Rong, who was standing to the side, was secretly shocked. Although the two of them were not polite with each other, it proved that they were friends. If Song Qing-shu was Ouyang Feng's friend, then things would be difficult. Even if Song Qing-shu didn't help Ouyang Feng, he would never harm him. After all, he had made quite a name for himself these past few years. Among his friends and relatives, there were several people who were at the same level as Ouyang Feng. If he was lucky enough to escape, Ouyang Feng would definitely not have an easy time. Therefore, he should thank the heavens that Song Qing-shu was willing to stand by and watch. This kind of good thing is something that others can't even beg for. How many men in this world yearn to climb into Huang Rong's bed? If it wasn't for the fact that our relationship isn't bad, how could I let you take advantage of me? Ouyang Feng couldn't help but heavily snort. "Are you still a man?" Huang Rong's beautiful face immediately paled. Only now did she realize Ouyang Feng's plan. She couldn't help but curse him for being shameless. With his status as one of the 5 uniques, doing such a thing could be said to be completely disregarding his reputation. However, what Song Qing-shu said next almost angered Huang Rong to death. She felt that the moral degeneration of the world was getting worse with each passing day. How could these martial artists be so shameless? "I don't need you to prove that I'm a man. Why don't you do it yourself? Why do you have to drag me down with you?" At this moment, Huang Rong's breathing was chaotic. Her full chest was heaving up and down, looking extremely alluring. Song Qing-shu quietly withdrew his gaze and sighed inwardly. She was indeed a stunner. Unfortunately, his ambition was to conquer the world. How could he ruin his plan all this time just for a woman? Ouyang Feng could ignore his own reputation and act according to his own preferences, but Song Qing-shu was different. He sought too many things, and in order to obtain these things, he had to give up many things. Song Qing-shu could more and more understand the weight behind Ouyang Feng's words. Having no desires is firm. Ouyang Feng's face heated up when he heard Song Qing-shu's question. He looked for Song Qing-shu with the intention of dragging him down. After all, if Huang Yaoshi, Gui Jing, and Zhou Badong joined forces to find him, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. But with Song Qing-shu on his side, things were different. If the two of them joined forces, even if Wang Chongyang came back to life, he wouldn't have to worry about the revenge of others. I've never been interested in women. Ouyang Feng's words were not a lie. Moreover, he was already quite old and had long since given up on such thoughts. No or no. Song Qing-shu's words almost made Ouyang Feng explode. He quickly diverted his attention. Why don't you look for Yanghua? Yanghua has been treated coldly and violently by Huang Rong since he was a child. Now that her daughter has cut off one of his arms, I'm sure he'd be happy to accept this task. Ouyang Feng shook his head. Yanghua may seem rebellious on the surface, but deep down he respects his teachers. It's impossible for him to do such a thing to Anigua. He might even save Huang Rong instead. Huang Rong was shocked. She wondered if she had been too wary of Yanghua in the past. Song Qing-shu, on the other hand, was speechless. Hey, old bro, you're being insulted. Yanghua would never do such a thing. Do you think I would? Ouyang Feng smiled coldly. Others may not know your tricks, but do you think I don't know? Just look at that play. It's a brilliant trick. I've lived for so many years, and it's an eye-opener for me. Song Qing-shu's face turned red. That was just a game. It can't be taken seriously. I'm afraid that's how you tricked so many girls into staying by your side. Ouyang Feng didn't believe his nonsense. Don't use words like trick. I treat every relationship with sincerity. Song Qing-shu was furious. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Ouyang Feng pointed at Huang Rong. Let's talk about this woman. Tell me, how many times did you look at her during the day? I can clearly see those lustful eyes. My eyes were filled with admiration. Even if Song Qing-shu's skin was thick enough, he still felt extremely embarrassed when Ouyang Feng exposed his dirty thoughts in front of Huang Rong. He almost cursed Ouyang Feng to death in his heart. This damn pervert, peeping at me all day long. All right, since you have feelings for her, I've already given you a chance. Don't tell me you still want me to strip her naked in front of you? Ouyang Feng immediately became impatient with Song Qing-shu's nagging. Seeing that Song Qing-shu was still silent, Ouyang Feng suddenly realized something. Are you worried that today's matter will spread and affect your reputation? You don't have to worry. I have a solution. What solution? Song Qing-shu asked subconsciously. As soon as he said it, he realized that he was too impatient. He couldn't help but blush. Ouyang Feng looked at him with a faint smile. Today's matter, besides you and me, only Huang Rong knows. You just need to find a way to shut her mouth. How can I shut her mouth? Song Qing-shu was stunned. The simplest way is to kill her afterward. Ouyang Feng's face flashed with malevolence. Huang Rong's heart turned cold. She knew that Ouyang Feng hated her to the bone. When the time came, he would definitely do that. Rape first, then kill. Song Qing-shu coughed a few times. Such a heartless thing. I can't do it. What kind of joke was this? Huang Rong was such a beautiful young woman. How could he bear to kill her? It's fine if you have tender feelings for the fairer sex. I have a plan. Ouyang Feng clasped his hands behind his back and laughed. I heard that Gui Jing has been busy defending Xiangyang and has no time to spend with his wife. That silly boy probably doesn't know how to have fun. Huang Rong probably hasn't tasted true pleasure with a woman. This old man can see that you are an experienced playboy, so your skill in that aspect is not bad. As long as you perform well enough tonight and make the Huang girl fall in love with you, she will naturally be reluctant to tell others what happened today. Huang Rong's face turned red. She wanted to pick up the dog-beating stick and slap Ouyang Feng's face. However, she knew that even if her acupuncture points were unsealed, she wouldn't be able to do that. Song Qing-shu's expression was extremely strange. He looked at Ouyang Feng with pity. This is your plan? Not only are you insulting my character, but you're also insulting my intelligence. What a joke. Although he had read Huang Rong's doujinshi in his previous life, Huang Rong wasn't the kind of woman who would indulge in sensual desires. Even if he used the blissful Zen technique on her, she would still regain her rationality. With her intelligence, she wouldn't even know how she died in the future. Ouyang Feng laughed awkwardly. He clearly felt that this plan wasn't reliable. Even an experienced playboy like Song Qingshu said it was impossible. It seemed that it really wouldn't work. Don't worry, I still have one last move. What? Song Qingshu didn't have much hope in his suggestion. Huang Rong also sneered as she listened. Ouyang Feng thought too simply of himself. Even if she couldn't keep her innocence today, she wouldn't give in to these two shameless people. In the future, she would definitely make them pay a painful price. Originally, Huang Rong had a good impression of Song Qingshu, but when she saw him colluding with Ouyang Feng to discuss a way to deal with her, her impression of him fell to the bottom of the valley. Ouyang Feng suddenly said in a strange tone, "As far as I know, you've also learned the Nining Manual. Then you must be proficient in the soul transfer technique. With your skills, you can easily make Huang Rong forget everything that happened tonight. Moreover, you can also leave a restriction in her heart. Whenever you want her, you can call her to serve you. She will definitely be obedient." Song Qingshu was shocked. He didn't think that Ouyang Feng would have the same idea as him. It wasn't that Song Qingshu didn't think of a way to get Huang Rong before. After thinking about it, the soul transfer technique was the only feasible method. Not only was it safe, but it also had no repercussions. Huang Rong's expression finally changed. She had ways to deal with other methods, but if she was really under the soul transfer technique, she wouldn't remember what happened afterwards. Huang Rong shuddered at the thought of being unknowingly in front of the respected heroine Huang during the day and being a plaything for other men at night. Chapter 469. Seeing Song Qingshu agree so readily, Ouyang Feng became suspicious. "You're not planning on lying to me, are you? I don't mind you watching from the side." Song Qingshu's words almost angered Huang Rong to death. "It's not enough that you humiliate me, but you still want Ouyang Feng to watch from the side." Ouyang Feng observed Song Qingshu's expression for a while, then laughed. "This old man doesn't have that kind of hobby. Kid, quickly go in. This old man will be a good person to the end, so I'll stand guard outside to prevent any stray cats or dogs from disturbing you. To be able to make eavesdropping sound so fresh and refined, I quite admire you." Hearing Song Qingshu's words, Ouyang Feng's face turned red, and he couldn't help but angrily say, "Are you going in or not? Every minute is worth 1,000 gold. Of course I'm going in." Song Qingshu rubbed his hands together and laughed as he walked into the cave, his appearance as vulgar as it could be. "What do you want? Don't come near me." Huang Rong struggled to retreat, but unfortunately, her acupuncture points were sealed by Ouyang Feng's unique pressure point technique, so she couldn't summon any strength in her body. "Madam is a national beauty, and now Shaolin is lying in front of me. What do you think I want?" Song Qingshu came to Huang Rong's side, put his nose close to her, and took a deep breath. "Smells so good." "Song Qingshu, you are a Wu Dang disciple, and also the son-in-law of the Amei faction. As a member of an upright sect, how can you do such a dirty thing?" Huang Rong was emotional, and her full chest heaved up and down. Song Qingshu glanced at her, then quickly looked away, thinking to himself, "My resistance to beauty is almost zero. If you continue like this, I'll really reach out and pinch you." Of course, what he said was different. Upright sects also have physical needs, not to mention that I've long been expelled from Wu Dang, so I'm no longer a Wu Dang disciple. As for Zhuo, you saw it during the day. She doesn't mind me looking for other women. Huang Rong was deeply shocked by his words. First, she didn't expect Song Qingshu to be so shameless, and second, she didn't expect Zhou Zhiruo to tolerate all this. Huang Rong imagined that if Brother Jing was like this outside, she would definitely fall out with him. Huang Rong understood that this was not the time to sigh. Seeing that Jianghu morality could not move Song Qingshu, she quickly changed her approach and said softly, "Prince Song, you obviously came to this Golden Snake gathering for the Golden Snake King. Now you have successfully entered the second round, and with your martial arts, it is very likely that you will eventually win. Is it necessary to ruin your future because of a moment of hot-headedness? You should know that there is no impenetrable wall in this world. Everything you have done today will eventually be exposed. At that time, you'll be hated by everyone in Wulin, and everything you have worked so hard to get will vanish like smoke. Do you think it's worth it? Seeing that Song Qing-shu was silent, Huang Rong struck while the iron was hot and said, "As long as you let me go today, I promise I won't say a word about what happened tonight. In the future, I will be your most reliable ally and provide you with all the help I can. You also know that we have a bit of a reputation in Wulin. Brat, you're not really stupid enough to be fooled by a few words from this woman, are you?" Ouyang Feng's voice came from far away at the entrance of the cave. Song Qing-shu laughed and scolded, "You old pervert! Can you stop eavesdropping on other people's conversations?" Ouyang Feng sighed and said, "Young people nowadays can't be trusted. I'm just worried that you'll be fooled." Changing the topic, Ouyang Feng's voice quickly became cold. "Little Huang, I'll give you a choice. Either you choose to serve him, or I'll find a random idler in the countryside. He doesn't know any Hero Gua or Chief Huang. With such a beautiful woman serving him, I don't believe he'll be as timid as Song Qing-shu." Huang Rong's face couldn't help but turn pale. If it was really as he said, it would be better to choose Song Qing-shu. At least she still had a chance to convince him. Song Qing-shu heard this and smiled bitterly. He knew that Ouyang Feng had spent a lot of effort to capture Huang Rong. If he didn't make sure that she would really lose her chastity, he wouldn't be at ease to leave. "Prince Song?" Seeing that Song Qing-shu's face changed, Huang Rong couldn't help but call out. Her voice was soft and charming, unexpectedly giving off the feeling of a delicate and pitiful girl. This woman was really a seductress. Song Qing-shu revealed an expression of infatuation. "Madam is really beautiful." "Shameless pervert." Huang Rong cursed in her heart, but she understood that whether or not she could escape tonight depended on the man in front of her. After 2 failed attempts at communication, Huang Rong's face turned red. She decided to change to a strategy that had been proven effective since ancient times. "Prince Song, do you still remember the first time we met?" Huang Rong asked softly. Song Qing-shu was stunned and nodded. "Of course I remember. It was at the Jiangling mansion. At that time, when I first saw Madame, I was simply stunned. Wasn't it the same for me?" Huang Rong's eyes seemed to be gradually covered with a layer of mist, becoming blurred. "I don't believe it." Song Qing-shu laughed mischievously. In terms of appearance, although he was confident that he could throw Guijing 8 streets away, it should be known that Huang Rong was not famous for being obsessed with appearance. In the past, when Ouyang Ku was similarly elegant and elegant, she did not even put him in her eyes at all. "I didn't lie to you. I believe that young master also knows that my beauty and my identity are attractive to men." Huang Rong's tone was calm, as if she was narrating something that had nothing to do with her. "Especially in recent years, all the men who saw me would hide a trace of desire in their eyes. Only you're an exception. Those clear and pure eyes, I still remember them clearly." As she spoke, even Huang Rong herself did not know if she was lying to him or if she really thought that way. Song Qing-shu could not help but be stunned. He completely did not expect her to mention this matter. At that time, his meridians were broken and he was in a precarious situation. His heart was like dead ashes all day long. How could he have any evil thoughts towards her? He did not expect that she would see it in his eyes and be so emotional. "But this time, when I saw you, your eyes were clearly different." Huang Rong revealed a hesitant expression, lightly biting her lips. "The way you look at me is the same as other men's eyes, full of... No, you're even a little more fearful of Wuji." Song Qing-shu was just about to say something, who knew that Huang Rong would change the topic, but I suddenly discovered that I actually do not dislike the way you look at me at all. Looking at Huang Rong's affectionate and shy expression, Song Qing-shu's heart was incomparably shocked. This acting is definitely at the level of an Oscar Best Actress. If it was not for the fact that he knew her too well from various films and television works in his previous life, this time he might really have believed her nonsense. Is that really so? With a face full of excitement, Song Qing-shu held Huang Rong's snow-white hand and gently slid it. While feeling the unusually smooth touch of her skin, he sighed with emotion. Actually, I have also admired Madame for a long time. With her skin touched by Song Qing-shu's dirty hand, Huang Rong's body trembled. She suppressed the disgust in her heart and said softly, I also like young master very much. It is a pity that when I was born, you were not born. When you were born, I was already old. Madame is a heavenly beauty. You look even younger than those 17 or 18-year-old girls. Were you old? Song Qing-shu secretly laughed. It seemed that Huang Rong's heart was also very sensitive to the issue of age. I really am old, Huang Rong said with emotion. Old? Then let me check which part is old. Here, or here. As Song Qing-shu spoke, he stretched out his fingers and pressed on various parts of Huang Rong's body. Huang Rong was shocked and angry at the same time. Just as she was about to turn hostile, she suddenly realized that although Song Qing-shu's fingers seemed to be pressing on her body casually, once they connected the points in order, they formed a complete sentence. Cooperate with me and act. The quick-witted Huang Rong immediately reacted. She knew that with Ouyang Feng's skills, no matter how low their voices were, he would hear them. If they used secret sound transmission, Ouyang Feng would immediately feel that something was wrong even if he couldn't hear the sound. Therefore, Song Qing-shu could only use this kind of hidden method to send a message to her. However, why couldn't he write on her palm? Why do you have to press on her body here and there? His fingers felt the unique softness and fullness of a mature woman's body. Song Qing-shu revealed a trace of smile. Of course he could write on her palm, but he had once again played the role of Lu Xiaohui. He had to collect some interest to be worthy of himself. Therefore, his hands were like butterflies dancing on her body. However, he also had a sense of propriety. He didn't touch Huang Rong's breasts, thighs, or other sensitive areas. He only chose some less vital areas so that Huang Rong wouldn't turn hostile. Don't touch there. It's itchy. Huang Rong deliberately raised her voice so that Ouyang Feng could hear her. At the same time, she winked at Song Qing-shu, indicating for him to release her acupuncture points. Madam won't let me touch here. What do you want me to touch? Song Qing-shu shrugged and continued to write on her lower abdomen. Ouyang Feng practiced the 90 manual in reverse. I can't release his acupuncture points. Huang Rong knew that he was speaking the truth. For a moment, she was in a dilemma. How could she escape? Did she have to let Song Qing-shu touch her like this? At this time, Ouyang Feng was the first to become impatient. He acted as if he wanted to barge in. I say, little brat Song Qing-shu, how long are you going to keep touching me like this? Are you even a man? Ouyang Feng was originally from the western regions. The people there were fierce and unyielding. His words were not tactful, so he didn't feel ashamed at all. What should I do? Song Qing-shu hurriedly wrote. Quickly, press on top of me. Hearing Ouyang Feng's footsteps, Huang Rong didn't want to fail at the last step. So, she quickly responded. When Song Qing-shu heard this, he was surprised that there was such a good thing. Since Huang Rong took the initiative to invite him, he naturally didn't have any reason to refuse. His body leaned to the side, and his whole body pressed on top of Huang Rong. Huang Rong felt her whole body sink. The weight of the man's body caused her to lose focus for a moment. Other than Brother Jing, she had never been ridden by another man like this. This feeling, it was so strange. Chapter 470. Can you go out first? I'm under a lot of pressure with you here. Song Qing-shu wiped the sweat off his forehead and said with a bitter expression, Okay. Don't worry about her. She's someone else's wife anyway. Ouyang Feng laughed and walked away with his hands behind his back. The old Poison King and I have the same view on this issue. Song Qing-shu touched his nose and suddenly found that he was still on top of Huang Rong. She was staring at him with a red face. What should we do next? Song Qing-shu's fingers continued to slide on her abdomen. Every time Song Qing-shu's fingers touched her, Huang Rong would have a kind of numb feeling. The throbbing from the depths of her body made her very dissatisfied with Song Qing-shu's behavior. She quickly stretched out her weak fingers and wrote on his chest. In the future, write on my palm. Your palm is too. Song Qing-shu continued to rub her flat abdomen. Noticing the anger in Huang Rong's eyes, Song Qing-shu stopped there and hurriedly grabbed her hand and pulled it in front of him. Madam's hands are so soft, as if there are no bones. They are even more beautiful than other girls. In this case, Song Qing-shu naturally did not need to hide it from Ouyang Feng, and he also did not need to painstakingly write. Her hand was tightly held by Song Qing-shu. Huang Rong subconsciously wanted to pull out, but his hand was like an iron hoop. Huang Rong tried several times, but could not move, so she gave up, feeling the heat coming from his palm. Huang Rong's face became unnatural. She unexpectedly replied, "Is your family Zhuo's hand beautiful?" Song Qing-shu was startled. He did not expect Huang Rong to ask this question. Women were really strange animals. They were already in such a situation, but they still wanted to compare. Madam's hand is very soft. It is so soft that it seems to be able to pinch water. Men do not want to let go of it. As for Zhuo's hand, is even colder. It is really a very enjoyable thing to hold her hand in the summer. Song Qing-shu pinched it as he spoke. It was really soft, just like cotton. It felt really comfortable in his hands. Stinky brat, your glib tongue doesn't offend anyone. Ouyang Feng's voice came from the cave entrance again. But I think you're only good at talking, not in bed. Bah! Men could be suspected of everything except this matter. Song Qing-shu immediately scolded. You old be***starred, who said my kung fu is not good? Humph! A single man and a single woman. All this time, I've only heard you talk, but I've never seen Huang Rong make a sound. If you can't do it, I'll find someone else. I guarantee that within the time it takes an incense stick to burn, he'll make Huang Rong cry for her father and mother. Ouyang Feng sneered. What should we do? He's seen through us. Song Qing-shu hastily wrote on Huang Rong's palm. Hearing Ouyang Feng's filthy words, Huang Rong was so angry that her teeth were about to shatter. But she knew that the only thing she could do now was to stall for time. The more time passed, the more likely it was that she would be saved. Once Fu, and the others discover that she was missing, they would definitely look for her everywhere. With her and her husband's many years of reputation and friendship with various sects, Shaolin, Wudong, and Chongyang would not just stand by and watch. At that time, no matter how high Ouyang Feng's kung fu was, he could only angrily leave. I have a way, but Huang Rong hesitated for a long time before finally continuing to write. Young master, after this matter is over, you must not tell anyone about what you've seen and heard today. Of course. Song Qing-shu nodded. In his heart, he was curious about what Huang Rong's so-called method was. You're also not allowed to laugh at me. After this matter is over, you must also forget everything that happened today. Huang Rong's face was captivating red as she continued to write. Song Qing-shu hastily nodded, his heart filled with anticipation. Could it be that she was going to? Seeing that Song Qing-shu had nodded, Huang Rong slowly closed her eyes. Just as Song Qing-shu was looking at her in a daze, Huang Rong's vermilion lips parted slightly, and a soft, lingering hum came out. Song Qing-shu's entire body quivered. Outside the cave, Ouyang Feng also pricked up his ears and excitedly said, You've gone in. Song Qing-shu cursed endlessly in his heart. He didn't know if this old poisonous creature had gone crazy for too long. But now he didn't have the demeanor of a grandmaster and had completely turned into a wretched old man. Don't disturb me, Song Qing-shu roared. Right now, he only wanted to enjoy Huang Rong's heavenly music performance. He didn't want Ouyang Feng to ruin the atmosphere. After being yelled at, Ouyang Feng indeed fell silent. Huang Rong tilted her head, her cheeks flushed, and her red lips slightly parted. Song Qing-shu's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the beautiful woman lying under him and moaning shyly. In the entire world, aside from Guijing, he was probably the only one who could enjoy such a beautiful scene. Why is your voice so fake? Stinky brat, can you do it? This woman's voice is completely perfunctory. At this time, Ouyang Feng's voice rang out at an inopportune time. causing Song Qing-shu to curse in his heart. But Ouyang Feng's voice was really good. Perhaps it was because of Huang Rong's shyness in front of a man other than her husband. Her voice, just now, was as fake as it could be. It was even more fake than those Japanese indie films in his previous life. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly and shook his head. Grabbing Huang Rong's hand, he quickly wrote in her palm, "Madam's voice is too fake. I'm afraid you won't be able to fool Ouyang Feng." Huang Rong almost fainted from anger. It was already shameful enough for her to do this behind her husband's back in front of him. And he actually said that her voice was too fake? She was originally in disguise, so of course it was fake. If she wanted her voice to be more real, she would have to really... But this was something Huang Rong absolutely couldn't tolerate. "Actually, I have a way to help madam." Song Qing-shu also knew that Huang Rong wouldn't really let him take advantage of her just to fool Ouyang Feng. So he quickly wrote, "How can I help?" Huang Rong blinked her eyes curiously. This time she didn't write it out, but the meaning was clear. "I can use the soul-shifting technique to hypnotize madam and make you recall the time you were intimate with Hirogua. That way, your voice will be very natural." Song Qing-shu quickly wrote. Huang Rong suddenly became vigilant, thinking that Song Qing-shu wouldn't be working with Ouyang Feng to trick her, right? If she really fell for his soul-shifting technique, she would be like a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Who knew what orders he would give her? What if he really did fake it, and she thought that she was intimate with Brother Jing and gently kissed him? Halfway through her thoughts, Huang Rong felt a chill run down her spine. She quickly shook her head and resolutely refused. "No. Why not?" Ouyang Feng's laughter came from the entrance of the cave. "Stinky brat, I think you can't do it. Looks like it's better to find a country bumpkin." Huang Rong's face suddenly turned pale, and for a moment she was in a dilemma. "Actually, I have another way." Song Qing-shu suddenly wrote. Huang Rong's face lit up, and she gestured for him to hurry up. "I'm afraid madam won't agree." Song Qing-shu smiled awkwardly. Huang Rong frowned. "Listen to it first." Song Qing-shu laughed bitterly and moved closer to Huang Rong's ear, whispering, "I'm not talented, but I've learned how to seduce beautiful women. If madam doesn't mind, I could try on madam. When the time comes, madam's voice will become natural, and you'll be able to fool Western poison. Naturally, you'll be able to get through this." Occasionally using the secret telepathy, he wouldn't have to worry about Ouyang Feng's suspicions. Huang Rong's ear was an extremely sensitive part of her body. When a strange man's dry lips touched it, Huang Rong's body immediately tensed up. Hearing Song Qing-shu's words, her face immediately turned cold. "Impossible. I also know that madam isn't willing." Song Qing-shu sighed. "But that perverted old man won't be able to wait for long. I'm afraid that in a moment, he really will find a random man." Seeing Huang Rong's face turn pale, Song Qing-shu continued, "Madam must also understand that Ouyang Feng and I could be considered friends despite the difference in age. Although I want to save you out of conscience, I won't go so far as to break off relations with an old friend for you. If Ouyang Feng really wants to change people, then I'll have to pretend that out of sight, out of mind, and not help either side." Huang Rong clearly felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't think of any flaws in his words. After a long silence, she suddenly lowered her head and softly asked, "Those methods you used just now, can you not touch me?" Seeing that her tone had softened, Song Qing-shu couldn't help but be greatly surprised. His words were aimed at inexperienced girls like Shui Sheng and Mu Jianping, so it shouldn't be a problem. But what kind of person was Huang Rong? How could she be fooled by his nonsensical tricks? Originally, he was only joking with Huang Rong. He would be satisfied flirting and taking advantage of her. In the end, he would save her, and Ouyang Feng wouldn't necessarily fall out with him. But who knew that after a few tests, although Huang Rong was able to maintain a firm stance, the intelligence she displayed was really unworthy of her reputation. Naturally, Song Qing-shu didn't know that before he came in, Ouyang Feng had already given Huang Rong the pollen of the black dachira. The black dachira was extremely rare in the world and was only found in the depths of the Western Desert. Even Ouyang Feng, the great western poison, had only found a few stalks. The flowers, roots, and leaves of the black datura were all highly toxic, but the toxicity of the pollen was much less. As long as the dosage was controlled, it could paralyze the mind of the poisoned person, causing the other party to be much slower than usual. However, the poisoned person wouldn't be able to detect any of this, and the other party wouldn't even know that they had been poisoned. Because Huang Rong had taken this kind of pollen, her thinking was much slower than usual. She clearly felt that there was a problem, but she still couldn't help but think along with Song Qingshu's logic, allowing him to take advantage of her. Seeing that Huang Rong had the intention to agree, Song Qingshu didn't care why she would agree. He hurriedly said, "How can I not touch you? I'm not an immortal." Seeing Huang Rong's brows furrow, he hurriedly added, "But I can only touch a few peripheral areas. I won't taint Madame's innocence." Huang Rong secretly thought that her abdomen had just been touched by him. It didn't seem to be a big deal if he touched it again. In any case, it wasn't a sensitive area. As long as he didn't touch her chest and that area, it wasn't unacceptable to let him take advantage of her a little. "Then you do it." Huang Rong closed her eyes as soon as she finished speaking. She really couldn't watch a strange man touch her body with her own eyes. Chapter 471. Listening to the fairy-like chanting in the cave, Ouyang Feng's expression became extremely strange. Did this brat really sleep with Huang Rong? Although Ouyang Feng was shouting fiercely, he knew that Song Qingshu would most likely help Huang Rong deceive him. He was not a person without a bottom line. He would not become a beast just because Ouyang Feng sent Huang Rong to him. Although Ouyang Feng did not see Song Qingshu and Huang Rong's little schemes in the cave, he knew that these two people who were more cunning than foxes definitely had a way to communicate with each other. He could also guess their strategy. It was nothing more than putting on a show for him. But what did it matter? In Ouyang Feng's plan, it didn't matter whether or not the two of them really did something improper. What was important was what outsiders thought. F greater than over equal to 1, F greater than over equal to F greater than over equal to ba. For all, looking at the vague silhouettes rushing over from afar, Ouyang Feng revealed a cunning smile. "Huang Rong, oh Huang Rong, you've been smart your whole life, but you've been muddle-headed this time. You think you're acting to trick me, but you don't know that I've already invited people to be my audience. When the time comes, even if it's not sh*t, it's still sh*t. Those idle people in the Jianghu don't care if you've really done anything improper. As long as they hear your performance, everyone will think that you've done something improper." Seeing that the group of people were about to arrive, Ouyang Feng quickly moved to a shadowy place nearby and silently watched everything. Sounds of crying and complaining could be heard from the cave. Ouyang Feng's expression was very interesting. "Brat, it seems that I have underestimated you. Haha, but you'll suffer soon enough. Who asked you to have thoughts of deceiving this old man? Serves you right." Shaolin, Wudong, and Chongyang were the leaders. Shaolin's leader was Xian Cheng, Wudong's leader was Zhang Songshi and Yin Lighting, and Chongyang's leader was Qiu Chuji. The other sects also had people rushing over. Guofu and big and small martial artists were among the beggar clan's troops, their faces full of anxiety. When Xiaofeng heard that Huang Rong had met with a mishap, he also rushed over to help. He was comforting Guofu and the others. As for Zhao Min and the others, they naturally looked as if they were watching a good show. They stared at the cave excitedly. In the cave, Huang Rong's screams came to an abrupt stop. Ouyang Feng, who was at the side, secretly laughed. Song Qingshu's reaction is not slow, but it's too late. "Mother, is that you? Shameless pervert. Let go of my mother." As Huang Rong's daughter, how could Guofu not recognize her mother's voice? She thought that her mother was being violated and her eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. "This daughter of yours is really stupid." In the cave, Song Qingshu said to Huang Rong in a bad mood. At this time, Huang Rong's clothes were disheveled and she was lying on a pile of withered grass. Her hair bun had been untied at some point, and her beautiful black hair was disheveled under her body. Her cheeks were flushed red, and she looked especially alluring. Huang Rong bit her lip and said in a panic, "We've fallen into Ouyang Feng's trap." Hearing the commotion outside, Huang Rong knew that most of the righteous people of Wulin were outside. She broke out in a cold sweat, and the effect of the black mandara flower dissipated by half. She quickly understood Ouyang Feng's evil plan. Originally, she had suspected that Song Qing-shu and Ouyang Feng were in cahoots to deceive her. But now, her suspicions were dispelled. After all, this matter had been exposed, and Song Qing-shu had become a person hated by everyone in Jianghu. Song Qing-shu was also cursing in his heart. He had thought that it was a blessing in disguise, but it turned out to be an unexpected disaster. It was not easy for him to change his reputation, but he was afraid that it would be ruined tonight. If it weren't for your stupid daughter, things wouldn't have gone out of control. Song Qing-shu snorted. Huang Rong nodded in agreement. If it weren't for Guo Fu shouting like that, she wouldn't have believed that the woman in this cave was her. This stupid Guo Fu was really a girl who made her mother suffer. Thief, let go of heroine Huang quickly, and I will give you a quick death. Xian Chung slammed the monk's staff in his hand heavily on the ground. Everyone present felt their hearts skip a beat and couldn't help but be secretly shocked. This monk has such a deep internal strength. However, most of the people's attention was still on the side of the cave. They knew that Huang Rong was being humiliated inside. Some felt pity, some felt inexplicable, and some took pleasure in her misfortune. What should we do? Although Huang Rong was usually wise, she couldn't help panicking at this moment. Don't panic, I have an idea. Song Qing-shu's calm voice made Huang Rong feel as if she had suddenly grasped a life-saving straw. She found that the young man in front of her was becoming more and more pleasing to the eye. Qiu Jichu had a fiery temper and was about to rush in, but he was stopped by Yin Lighting. Taoist, if heroine Huang is really inside, with so many men rushing in, it's a bit. He didn't finish his words, but everyone understood what he meant. At this moment, Huang Rong might be naked. If they rushed in rashly and accidentally saw something they shouldn't see, it would be really inappropriate. Then what should we do? Do we just wait like this? Qiu Jichu was angry. This? Yin Lighting also couldn't think of a good idea. If they rushed in, it was very likely that they would offend Huang Rong. If they didn't rush in, would they let so many people sit and watch Huang Rong be bullied by the pervert? While the group of people were arguing, Song Qing-shu suddenly walked out of the cave. I say, you guys are so noisy in the middle of the night. Aren't you annoying? It's you. Seeing Song Qing-shu's appearance clearly, Guo Fu's new and old hatred added to her heart. She immediately cursed, "You shameless scoundrel, you actually did this to my mother," to her. No matter how stupid Guo Fu was, she wouldn't have said that word out loud. The surroundings were in an uproar, and all of them cursed Song Qing-shu without end. Yin Lighting and Zhang Song-shi glanced at each other, and they both saw the worry in each other's eyes. Xiao Feng and the others who had some relationship with Song Qing-shu instantly frowned without end. As for Zhao Min, her eyes were smiling like a flower. "Well, your mother, my mother." Hearing the crowd's curses, Song Qing-shu seemed to have just figured out what was going on. He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "Are you all joking? How could heroine Huang be inside?" Huang Rong, who was hiding inside, felt guilty when she heard this. She quickly shrank back, afraid that she would be seen by the people outside the cave. Her heart was filled with doubt. Would this work? Hey, shameless scoundrel, don't try to argue. Xiancheng had long been displeased with Song Qing-shu for saving Zhao Min from his hands last time. Song Qing-shu frowned and sneered. "Big monk, you didn't see anything, but you keep saying that heroine Huang is inside. If people who don't know the truth hear this, they will think that heroine Huang is unfaithful to her husband." Xiancheng's eyes widened in anger. He was about to speak when he was interrupted by Song Qing-shu. "I was having fun with my concubine here. I don't know why you suddenly appeared. The moment you saw me, you kept saying that heroine Huang is inside. Why do I feel that someone is deliberately slandering heroine Huang's reputation?" Those who were meticulous in their thinking secretly nodded. What Song Qing-shu said was not unreasonable. If they accidentally wronged heroine Huang, it would be a crime. However, Miskwa seemed to recognize her mother's voice just now. Xian Cheng snorted coldly. You're trying to bluff your way out of this. If you really have a clear conscience, do you dare to let us search you? As soon as this statement was made, it was quickly echoed by the crowd. Song Qingshu's words just now had only shaken a few people's hearts. Most people believed that Huang Rong was in the cave. No, Song Qingshu coldly refused. Ha, sure enough, you have a guilty conscience. Shameless pervert, eat this poor monk's staff. Xian Cheng flew into the air. His kasaya swelled up like a rock spreading its wings. His first move was the fiercest move of the devil-vanquishing staff. Qiu Chuji had always been good friends with Guijing and Huang Rong. He wanted to save Huang Rong from the clutches of the devil. He didn't care about Jianghu morality. He drew his sword and attacked. Guofu was worried about her mother's safety. She shouted and attacked. Big and Little Wu knew that this young lady's martial arts were poor. They were worried that something might happen to her, so they jumped out to protect her. When the three of them moved, Xiao Feng turned pale with fright. He knew that the people in front of them were top martial artists. The residual wind from their palms could injure ordinary martial artists. If the three of them went over, they would lose their lives if they were not careful. How could he watch the Guo couple's daughter die on the spot? With a roar, his whole body shot out. He moved later, but arrived first. With a gentle palm, he blocked the three of them. Let me. Xian Cheng was known as the 13 Divine Monks. He was recognized by the Shaolin Temple as the #1 in 200 years. Qiu Chuji was Wang Chongyang's direct disciple. He was also the one with the highest level of martial arts among the Chuanjin 7 masters. Xiao Feng was even more amazing. He had taken the head of a general from an army of 10,000 and shocked the world. He was called the God of War. Seeing the three of them join hands, the Jianghu warriors thought that even if Wang Chongyang came back to life, he would have to avoid them. Dealing with an up-and-coming martial artist would be a piece of cake. They saw Song Qingshu standing at the entrance of the cave. He didn't dodge at all. He hit the tip of the staff with his palm. Xian Cheng felt a huge force, and the staff swept to the side. If it was a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be a big deal. Song Qingshu used all his strength to block the weapon, but his whole body was full of openings. Xian Cheng could take the opportunity to let go of the staff in his hand. Then he could use at least 7 different moves to attack and seriously injure Song Qingshu. But at this moment, the Chuanjin sect's Qiu Chuji was also attacking. Xian Cheng swung his staff to the side and met Qiu Chuji's chest. Xian Cheng turned pale with fright. The staff carried the power of his and Song Qingshu's strength. If it hit Qiu Chuji, he would not be able to escape death. The Chuanjin sect was the #1 sect in the world. If he accidentally killed Qiu Chuji, wouldn't the two sects become enemies? Xian Cheng had come down the mountain to shoulder a heavy responsibility. How could he not complete his mission and attract a great enemy for the Shaolin Temple? So he gave up on attacking Song Qingshu and used all his strength to neutralize the internal strength of the staff. Qiu Chuji was also shocked. He quickly waved his sword and used the pick formula to move the staff away. Who would have thought that as soon as the sword touched the staff, the sword would immediately break into pieces? Qiu Chuji felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew to the side. At this time, Xiao Feng had also arrived in front of Song Qingshu. The two people's moves were similar. They went back and forth. In a flash, they had exchanged more than 10 moves. The two people's palms were fake and real. They seemed to be swallowing and spitting. Sometimes the sound of their palms colliding was like thunder. Other times, when their palms collided, it was silent. When the two people separated, an invisible force field spread out in all directions. Those who were not strong enough could not help but retreat a few steps before they could stand firm. They could not help but be overwhelmed with shock. Only Song Qingshu and Xiao Feng understood how dangerous the exchange between the two people was. If they made a mistake in judgment, they would either hit an empty spot with all their strength and be injured by the backlash of their Jinqi. If they were not prepared enough, they would be attacked by the opponent's full-strength palm. Even if they did not die, they would be seriously injured. Seeing that Song Qing-shu was able to easily repel the attacks of the three experts and was standing at the entrance of the cave like a demon god descending to the world, the crowd of heroes fell into a strange silence. Chapter 472. Qing-shu, no matter how powerful you are, do you think you can fight against all the heroes of the world? Seeing that both sides were in a stalemate, Zhang Songshi was worried that the heroes would all rush forward, so he quickly showed up to stabilize the situation. Sure enough, when someone from the Wudong sect showed up, even if they wanted to attack, they had to think twice before giving Wudong sect face. Qing-shu, if you're innocent, why don't you let everyone into the cave to check and prove your innocence? Lighting echoed. In fact, if it was a year ago, he and Zhang Songshi would not have suspected that Song Qing-shu would do such a thing. After all, Song Qing-shu killed Muo Xinggu because he peeped on a female disciple of the Amei sect. But when Song Qing-shu tried to assassinate Kangxi, the whole world was shocked. Even Zhang Sanfeng admitted that he had misunderstood Qing-shu. The brothers had long since regarded Song Qing-shu as a Wudong sect disciple. Now, naturally, they did not want to believe that he would risk the world and do such a thing to Huangrong. Moreover, this matter was a bit strange, so the two decided to help Song Qing-shu in secret. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. Fourth uncle, sixth uncle, it is not that I do not want to let everyone check, but because of what? Xiancheng was like an angry King Kong. He had suffered at the hands of Song Qing-shu several times, but he never thought that it was because his opponent was stronger than him, but because his opponent was too cunning. If it was not for Wudong sect, he would have already made another move to determine the winner. Because I was just doing it with a concubine in my room. Now that my clothes are disheveled, it is not convenient to show them in front of everyone. Song Qing-shu answered sincerely. Who is your concubine? Who did it with you? Huangrong, who was hiding in the cave, secretly spat. Seeing that he could lie with his eyes open and still be so natural, she secretly admired him. But then she thought that if someone really rushed in, wouldn't his words prove that something dirty had happened between the two of them? Huangrong could not help but worry. Anyway, we can't go in and check, so you can make up whatever you want. Xiujichu was helped up by the disciples. His face was pale, and it was obvious that he had suffered serious internal injuries. According to Prince Song's description of the cave, it is indeed not suitable for men to enter. But if it's a woman, it shouldn't be a problem. Zhao Min was also very curious about who the woman in the cave was. In her opinion, the person inside was most likely Huangrong, but if she didn't confirm it with her own eyes, it would be hard to quell the curiosity in her heart. As soon as she said this, everyone present nodded. After all, the entrance to the cave was narrow, and with Song Qing-shu guarding it alone, it would be difficult for everyone to rush in. Now that Zhao Min's suggestion was reasonable, Song Qing-shu naturally had no reason to refuse. Song Qing-shu hesitated. You have a guilty conscience, so you don't dare to let others check? Xiancheng mocked. Song Qing-shu immediately sneered. Big monk, you are greedy, angry, and crazy. Now you are so impatient. Could it be that you also want to enter the cave to see women and break your lust? Boy, don't slander me. Xiancheng was furious, but he knew that it was a family member inside. If he insisted on going in and searching, wouldn't it prove his slander? He could only suppress his anger and wait for the truth to come out. Then he would punish this evildoer on behalf of heaven. Song Qing-shu shifted his gaze and glanced at the audience. Then, he said in a clear voice, Actually, my reputation is small. But this matter is related to Heroine Huang's reputation and integrity. How can I let Heroine Huang suffer an injustice because of my selfishness? Since that's the case, send 3 women over to see if the person inside is Heroine Huang. Huangrong was ashamed. This Song Qing-shu really dared to say such things. When people came in and saw that it was her, she wanted to see how he would deal with it. Why can only send 3? Hearing Song Qing-shu's words, the crowd suddenly burst into an uproar. Song Mao only allowed people to come in and check because he was worried about Miss Huang's innocence. but my private affairs are not something that anyone can pry into. Everyone, don't push your luck. Song Qing-shu snorted heavily, and an unparalleled aura spread out. The crowd suddenly felt as if they were facing a great enemy. Zhang Songshi and Ian Lighting quickly came out to smooth things over. Everyone thought carefully. Although 3 people were not enough, they were more than enough to recognize the people in the cave. There was no need to get entangled in these details. However, the choice of the 3 women became a problem. Guofu was definitely one, because she could recognize her own mother. Zhao Min was also one. She was born in Mongolia, so naturally, she did not have any friendship with Song Qing-shu, so she did not cover up for Song Qing-shu. The only thing they needed to be wary of was that she might slander Huang Rong's innocence. But with the other 2 women here, it was useless for her to lie alone. The last woman could not be decided after a long time. This time, most of the people who came after hearing the news were famous sects in the martial arts world, so there were not many women. Originally, the head of the Amaze sect, Zhou Zhiruo, was the best candidate. Unfortunately, Zhou Zhiruo happened to be Song Qingshu's wife. The other women either did not have enough prestige or did not have a good reputation, so they were all rejected. Just when the deadlock was about to happen, a cold female voice came from the back of the crowd. "I'll do it." Everyone turned around and saw that the person who came was dressed in plain clothes. Her beautiful face looked a little haggard. It was the former Golden Snake King's widow, Xia Qingqing. The people from the various sects nodded. Xia Qingqing was the current leader of the Golden Snake Battalion in name. Such a big thing had happened in her territory, so it was best for her to come forward. Moreover, they had not heard that she had any friendship with Song Qing-shu. Seeing that everyone had agreed, Song Qing-shu secretly laughed. If they knew about his relationship with Xia Qingqing, wouldn't they be so angry that they would vomit blood? Among the 3 women, Xia Qingqing was on his side. When she found Huang Rong later, even if she was jealous, she would not expose everything in front of so many people. He could explain it to her later. Guofu was a single-celled animal. When she entered the cave, he would use the soul transfer technique on her. With her resistance, she would be instantly affected, and the experts present would not be able to see through it. As for Zhao Min, he really did not know what she was thinking. He would just have to take it one step at a time. Guofu was worried about Huang Rong's safety, so she ran the fastest. When she passed by Song Qing-shu, she could not help but glare at him fiercely. Who knew that his eyes were like black holes? That strange and evil black made Guofu startled. She quickly looked away, but secretly felt that it was strange. Huang Rong was nervous. When she saw Guofu suddenly appear in front of her, her mind went blank. She sighed in her heart. It's over. But what made Huang Rong feel strange was that the scream she expected did not come. She couldn't help but open her eyes curiously and find Guofu staring at her with a puzzled expression. Guofu also felt strange. She clearly felt that the woman in front of her was very familiar, but she could not figure out who she was. She looked again and confirmed that it was not her mother. Her heart suddenly became happy, and she skipped out. At this time, Xia Qingqing happened to walk in. Their eyes met, and when she saw the other's appearance, a huge wave rose in her heart. She did not think that he would be so daring as to really do that to Huang Rong. Xia Qingqing walked out of the cave with a frosty expression. When she passed by Song Qing-shu, she paused slightly and said in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear, "When we get back, someone will find you to settle the score." Whether intentionally or not, Zhao Min was the last to walk over. There was a slight smile on her lips. When she passed by Song Qing-shu, she did not talk to him, nor did she look him in the eye. She walked straight into the cave and saw the beautiful woman lying in the pile of withered grass. The smile on her lips became even wider. "How is it? Who is inside? Is it Hero and Huang?" The 3 women came out one after another. The crowd immediately surrounded them and asked questions. Knowing that her mother was not as humiliated as she had imagined, Guofu's delicate face bloomed with a smile that she had not seen in a long time. "My mother is not inside." Xia Qingqing also nodded. "The lady inside is Song Xiaoxia's confidant. I also know her." As for her name, it is not convenient for me to reveal it. Seeing the two of them speaking in unison, the crowd of heroes had different expressions. Some of them heaved a sigh of relief. These people were either on good terms with Song Qing-shu or Huang Rong. None of them wanted to see that happen. There were also some who could not help but reveal disappointed expressions. Apart from some ambitious people, most of them were idle people in Jianghu. It was nothing more than a pity that they had missed out on a shocking scandal. At this time, Xiaomin also walked slowly to the entrance of the cave with her hands behind her back. Song Qing-shu took advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was on Guo Fu and Xia Qingqing. He quickly leaned over and said concisely, "State your conditions." Xiaomin pursed her lips and smiled. It seemed that she had already expected this. She answered without hesitation, "After this matter is settled, accompany me to Blackwood Cliff." "Okay." Song Qing-shu did not hesitate at all and simply nodded. "Why didn't you use the soul transfer technique on me just now?" Xiaomin still maintained her smile. Ever since she was kidnapped by Song Qing-shu, Xiaomin went back and did a lot of homework. In addition, there were many masters in the Ryong mansion. It was easy for Xiaomin to know the martial arts that he practiced like the back of her hand. Since Song Qing-shu had practiced the 9-yin manual, he naturally also practiced the soul transfer technique. Because you were a smart person, Song Qing-shu understood that for a person like Xiaomin, she did not care about right or wrong, justice or evil. What she cared about the most was how to maximize her benefits. If she told these people outside about Huang Rong's identity, it would not benefit her at all. Naturally, she would not do that. "Thank you." Xiaomin blinked her eyes. "Is there no other reason? For example, we are friends or something like that." Song Qing-shu hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Were you guys whispering and discussing over there?" Suddenly, there was an angry roar. It turned out that Xian Cheng was not satisfied with this result. Seeing that the two of them had been discussing for a long time, he naturally became suspicious. "Big Monk, why are you so fierce? Have you forgotten the lesson from a few days ago?" Zhao Min smiled carelessly. As soon as she finished speaking, the masters of the Ryong mansion all stepped forward and focused their attention. Xian Cheng held his breath. Although he had always been rash, he was not a fool since he had practiced the 13 unique skills. He knew that the other side had many masters, so he would not fight them head-on. It was not that he had not thought of joining hands with Shuju. That way, he would not be afraid of the masters of the Ryong mansion. However, when he thought that Shuju would have even more powerful enemies tomorrow, he could not bear it and could only suppress his anger. "Princess, what did you see?" Although Xiao Feng knew that he was a Khitan, he also had deep feelings for the Han people. He did not want the two sides to have a conflict at this time, so he hurriedly spoke to ease the atmosphere. "I'm afraid that King Xiao may not like my answer." After hearing Zhao Min's words, many people's expressions changed. "Princess, please speak clearly." Although Xiao Feng was secretly shocked, his voice was still calm. Chapter 473. What? Hearing Zhao Min say that the woman inside was Huang Rong, the crowd suddenly burst into an uproar. "Princess, are you sure?" Xiao Feng frowned and asked. "If it was really Huang Rong inside, it would be troublesome." "I'm sure." Zhao Min didn't look at Song Qing-shu anymore and said resolutely, "Why is the princess's words so different from Miss Guo's and Madame Yuan's?" Xiao Feng's question was also on the minds of many people present. As the daughter of swordswoman Huang, Miss Guo would naturally protect her mother's reputation. So although she recognized the person inside, she chose to hide it. Zhao Min said unhurriedly. Guo Fu suddenly became anxious. "Nonsense. It's obviously not my mother." "Then why did Madame Yuan lie?" Xian Cheng suddenly asked. The Shaolin Temple had never been friends with Guo Jing and Huang Rong, so he was not afraid of offending them. In fact, in his heart, he hoped that the person inside was Huang Rong, so that he could get rid of Song Qing-shu, who he had always disliked. "I'm afraid you don't know that the 12 leaders of the Golden Snake Camp will nominate a candidate to compete for the Golden Snake King, and Madame Yuan's candidate is Song Qing-shu, Prince Song." Zhao Min pointed at Song Qing-shu. Noticing his gloomy face, the smile on her face became wider. Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar. Xiancheng looked at Xia Qingqing and asked, "Madam Yuan, is it true?" Xia Qingqing's face paled. She had not expected such a turn of events. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, "The person I nominated was indeed Sir Song. That was because I admired Sir Song's righteous act of assassinating Kangxi. I felt that if he became the Golden Snake King, there was a high chance that he would avenge my late husband." Xia Qingqing blushed with guilt. If Big Brother Yuan knew about this in the afterlife, the first person he would kill would probably be Song Qingshu. Seeing that the crowd heard her words, Xia Qingqing hurriedly added, "But I can guarantee with my integrity that the person inside is definitely not Swordswoman Huang." At the same time, she groaned inwardly. Once the truth was revealed, not only would Huang Rong's reputation be ruined, but she would also have to cover up for Song Qingshu. She reckoned that some people would suspect the relationship between the two of them. If someone were to add fuel to the fire, her reputation would also be ruined. However, Xia Qingqing understood that things had already reached this point, so she could only grit her teeth and not give in. Looking at the incomparably beautiful woman in the distance, Song Qingshu gnashed his teeth in hatred. In the past, when he read novels, he had always liked those witches with strange spirits. Now that he thought about it, he was really too naive. He liked witches because he had not experienced their suffering. He originally thought that with his relationship with Zhao Min, she would never stab him in the back. Who would have thought that just a moment ago, she would smile sweetly and agree to it, and in the next second, she would stab him with a knife. Now that things had come to this, Song Qingshu could no longer remain silent. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Have you all forgotten Zhao Min's identity?" Seeing that many people had a thoughtful look on their faces, Song Qingshu said, "The Mongolians have always had the determination to conquer the world. For many years, they have been fighting the southern Song dynasty in Xiangyang. The Mongolian army has always been invincible, but after attacking Xiangyang for several years, they have not gained an inch of land. It is precisely because of the couple's contributions that the Mongolians have long regarded them as a thorn in their side. They want nothing more than to get rid of them. If we can successfully slander Swordswoman Huang's reputation today, how will the people of Jianghu look at Hirogua in the future? In everyone's hearts, he will no longer be the hero of Xiangyang that tens of thousands of people admire, but a poor man who has been cuckolded by his wife, who will sincerely obey him and fight against the Mongolian army under his leadership. When the time comes, this princess will only need a few simple words to help the Mongolians get rid of a big problem. Should we all praise her for her brilliance or be annoyed at our own stupidity?" Hearing Song Qingshu's sarcasm about their intelligence, the people present could not help but be angry. However, there were many smart people in the sections. Hearing that Song Qingshu's words were reasonable, they could not help but lower their heads and think deeply. Zhao Min seemed to be prepared for this. She replied calmly, "Prince Song has a glib tongue, but he has deliberately ignored one fact. The Mongolian kings have been fighting openly and secretly for the throne. It is an open secret that they are not on good terms. Our Ryong mansion is in charge of the western region, and Xiangyang is under the jurisdiction of the fourth prince, Kublai. Why would I work so hard for someone else?" In fact, most of the sects had already believed that the person inside was Na Huangrong. After all, Guofu and Xia Qingqing had testified, and Zhao Min's position was suspicious. However, hearing Zhao Min's words, it seemed that what she said made some sense. She indeed had no reason to frame Huangrong. Why go through so much trouble? Just let the person inside come out and have a look. After such a long time, even if she took off her clothes just now, she should be neatly dressed by now. Someone shouted, and the group of people all nodded in agreement. Song Qingshu cursed in his heart. Ouyang Feng, this be *starred, really wanted to see the world in chaos. This time, he was probably going to get himself killed. This poor monk thinks that what the benefactor said just now is reasonable. Since you have a clear conscience, please ask the person inside to come out and let everyone see him. Xiancheng took the opportunity to take a step forward, looking like he would rush in if he did not agree. The more Song Qingshu looked at this big monk, the more he hated him. He said coldly, "How can my womenfolk show their faces in front of so many men? Womenfolk can't show their faces in public," Xiao Chuji suddenly said. "But heroine Huang's innocence is a matter of righteousness. Comparing the two, of course you have to sacrifice the trivial for the greater good. I ask that you reconsider, young master." Guo Jing and the Chuanjin sect had a deep relationship, and Xiao Chuji had always liked the simple and honest Guo Jing. However, because of various historical reasons, he actually did not like Huang Rong, the evil woman of the past. If Huang Rong had really cheated on her husband, he, who had always hated evil, would definitely choose to help Guo Jing get rid of this whore. Who knew that Xiao Chuji's words would only provoke a cold laugh from Song Qingshu. "I heard that you personally went to the desert to preach to Temujin, but I don't know what kind of high position the Mongolians have secretly conferred upon you. Now you're talking about the righteousness of the nation, but it is just to cover up the fact that you are working for the Mongolians. You." Xiao Chuji was so angry that his whole body was trembling, and he spat out a mouthful of old blood. Xiancheng immediately said angrily, "Spiritual Master Qiao went all the way to the west to persuade Temujin to love the people and stop killing. This has nothing to do with selfishness. This matter is known to the whole world. Little brat, don't speak without thinking and distort the truth. Taoists of Wudang, what do you say now?" This. Zhang Songshi and Yin Lighting looked at each other. Now, they were in a dilemma. They couldn't help Song Qingshu, but they also could not help him. Since the Wudang sect is not going to come out to clean up their sect, then this poor monk will do it for you. Xiancheng laughed coldly, but just as he was about to make his move, a gentle female voice came from the cave. "Everyone, there is no need to force Song Qingshu. I will come out." Hearing this voice, Zhao Min couldn't help but frown, and Song Qingshu was also indescribably surprised. Soon, a beautiful and elegant woman walked out. Her cheeks were flushed, and her skin was fair. Under the illumination of the flames, she looked even more beautiful. "Who is this?" Yin Lighting was stunned for a moment, then quickly asked. He had seen this woman at the meeting a few days ago. At that time, she was beside Song Qingshu, and they looked very close. Clearly, their relationship was not ordinary. The weight in his heart had finally been lifted. He felt relieved and wanted to help Song Qingshu clear his name. "She is Princess Chomping, Chongzhen's Princess Chomping." There was no lack of knowledgeable people in the crowd, and someone quickly recognized the woman's identity. Song Qingshu also didn't understand why Zhu Xiaoxiao would suddenly appear in the cave, but his reaction was also very fast. After a moment of surprise, he immediately went up to her and held her hands. He said softly, "Didn't I tell you not to come out? How can I let you be wrong for the sake of my reputation?" Zhu Xiaoxiao said shyly. After a moment of affection with Song Qingshu, she immediately turned to face the crowd. "Everyone must know that my identity is a little sensitive. The reason why Song Qingshu doesn't want to let everyone see me is because he doesn't want my reputation to be tarnished, because we haven't even gotten married yet." Zhu Xiaoxiao's face was slightly red, as if she had made a great decision. Finally, she continued, "We have already decided to marry each other." As soon as these words came out, the impact on the crowd was no less than the loss of chastity. After all, Zhu Xiaoxiao was a dignified princess of country, and she had already given herself to a man without being officially married. This could be considered as a loss of etiquette and shame, and it could be said that she had lost all the face of the Ming dynasty. Hearing the whispers of the crowd, Zhu Xiaoxiao's face turned pale, and she continued to say, "Originally, I didn't intend to come out, but I was worried that you would fall into the trap of the Tartars, and that heroine Huang would be wronged. Everyone also knows that my great Ming dynasty's rivers and mountains were stolen by the Jianzhou Jurchen. Therefore, in my entire life, my greatest wish is to drive the Tartars away. Now, because I care about my own reputation, how can I let the Tartars' evil scheme succeed?" Looking at Zhu Xiaoxiao's delicate figure and the faint tears in her beautiful eyes, A trace of pity rose in the hearts of the people present. How could they bear to criticize her with etiquette, thinking that she was willing to sacrifice her own reputation for the sake of national righteousness? They secretly admired her. "May I ask why everyone is gathered here tonight?" Song Qing-shu struck the iron while it was hot and asked in a clear voice. "We seem to have received a letter." "Eh? Us too. We received it too." Song Qing-shu let out a long sigh of relief. Thanks to Ouyang Feng's good deed, he could turn the tables at this time. Now it seems very obvious that someone has set up a trap and deliberately tarnished Heroine Huang's innocence. Before he could finish his words, the crowd, who understood that they had been used, became furious. Which bastard did this? Similar curses rose one after another. Chapter 474. After Song Qing-shu's reminder, the crowd finally remembered that Zhao Min was the main culprit. They all cursed in anger. "We almost fell for this demoness trap. This woman is truly vicious. If she had succeeded, wouldn't Heroine Huang have suffered great humiliation? Kill the demoness." No one knew who shouted, but it was quickly echoed by everyone else. A group of people shouted in unison. Zhao Min also felt depressed. Originally, everything was under her control. Who knew that Princess Chongping would suddenly appear and turn the situation around? What made Zhao Min feel even more sullen was that normally she could casually play tricks and fabricate things out of nothing to deceive others. Today, she had a rare change of heart and told the truth. Instead, she was treated as a liar. She couldn't help but sigh at the deep malice of this world. "Princess, you should leave quickly. If a fight really breaks out later, I'm afraid that your precious body will be harmed," Taoist Baiseng and the guardian deity said hurriedly. Taoist Baiseng and the guardian deity of the guardian deity sect hurriedly said. Although the people from the Ryong Mansion were all top-notch experts, there was no lack of expert from the other sects who were of the same level. Zhao Min had now become the target of everyone. If they were to fall into a chaotic battle, they really could not guarantee Zhao Min's safety. Zhao Min also knew that she couldn't stay here for long. She glared fiercely at Song Qing-shu, then turned and left. The people nearby wanted to stop her, but they saw Taoist Baiseng and the guardian deity attack at the same time. Instantly, miserable screams rang out. The disciples of the various sects glanced at the two people behind them in fear. How would they dare to chase after them? The one with the highest level of martial arts among them was Xiancheng. He moved slightly, but when he thought of the great disadvantage he had suffered during the day, his face alternated between red and white. In the end, he stopped. Since this matter is over, Song Mao will take his leave now. Earlier, Song Qing-shu had taken advantage of the chaos to sneak a peek at the cave. Huang Rong had long since disappeared. He had a stomach full of questions to ask Audiobook. Thus, as soon as he finished speaking, he didn't wait for the crowd to react. He grabbed Audiobook's waist and disappeared into the distance in a flash. This Song Brat's movement technique is really profound. I wonder if it can compare to the Green Wing Bat King of the Ming Dynasty. Green Wing Bat King is nothing. Legend has it that Song Qing-shu's movement technique is inferior to Dongfang Boobies. Is that true? Come to think of it, we were stupid. Song Qing-shu has such a good qinggong. If he really did something to Miss Huang, he could just grab her and leave. We wouldn't be able to catch up. Isn't it because he has a clear conscience that he spent so much effort to explain to us? Brother, you're right. Song Qing-shu did not care about the gossip of these Jianghu people behind his back. After carrying Ajiu away, he did not know how to ask about Huang Rong. Ajiu spoke first. "Put me down." "Ah, Jiu." "Ah, King," Ajiu said. You have fun with other women. In the end, I have to sacrifice my reputation to save you. Thinking of this, I feel you are so annoying. You have fun with other women. In the end, I have to sacrifice my reputation to save you. Thinking of this, I feel you are so annoying. Ajiu had never been angry at Song Qing-shu. Even when Song Qing-shu had obtained her chastity outside Shengjing, Ajiu did not blame him. However, what Song Qing-shu had done today was a little too much. I don't mind if you find another woman, but can you distinguish who is more important? Can you touch a woman like Huang Rong? Ajio was so angry. On the one hand, he was jealous. On the other hand, he put the hope of restoring the country on Song Qing-shu. If Song Qing-shu really did such a scandal, there would be no place for him in the whole martial arts world. How could he talk about conquering the world? Ajio, you really misunderstood me. I didn't do anything to Huang Rong. Song Qing-shu was also very depressed. Speaking of which, it was all that old pervert Ouyang Feng's fault. He almost got himself killed. You're still lying to me. When I entered the cave, I clearly saw Huang Rong's face was red and her clothes were disheveled. How could she have done nothing? Ajio bit his lips and turned his head to the side. That's just a show for Ouyang Feng. Song Qing-shu quickly explained the whole thing from beginning to end. Is what you said true? Ajio looked at him doubtfully. Why don't you ask Huang Rong? Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly. Do you think she will lie with me? I will ask. Although he said this, Ajio already believed most of it. Noticing that Ajio's expression had softened, Song Qing-shu quickly asked, By the way, Ajio, why were you in the cave? Where did Huang Rong go? Guess. Ajio smiled proudly. You dug a tunnel? Song Qing-shu probed. There was only one exit in the entire cave, and he had been guarding there. Moreover, there were hundreds of pairs of eyes watching from outside. It was impossible for Ajio to enter from there, so the only way left was to dig a tunnel. How boring. You guessed it right away. Ajio gloomily pouted. It turned out that when Ajio was the holy maiden of the Ming dynasty, she didn't have a good impression of the 4 great Dharma kings and the 5 wanderers of the Ming dynasty. Instead, she had a deep impression of the 5 element flags. On the battlefield, the 5 element flags were often able to fight against many. Not only were they not at a disadvantage, but sometimes they could even suppress enemies several times their size. After Ajio left the Ming dynasty, the first thing he did was to set up his own 5 element flags. Unfortunately, he had limited manpower and the results weren't ideal. However, some simple tasks, such as digging a tunnel like the thick earth flag, were very easy. When Ajio found out that Song Qing-shu was blocked in the cave by a group of heroes, he immediately gathered the relevant people and dug a tunnel nearby, extending it into the cave. He took Huang Rong's place, and then Ajio took her place and openly walked to the entrance of the cave. Ajio, it's really thanks to you this time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Song Qing-shu said with lingering fear. He couldn't help but pull Ajio into his arms. Song Qing-shu, after this incident, you have to be more careful in the future. Ajio's face was pressed against Song Qing-shu's chest. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and asked doubtfully, I heard from Big Sister Zhou that you have a good relationship with Zhao Min. Why did she do that just now? Hearing her mention Zhao Min, the evil fire in Song Qing-shu's heart soared. This which caused me so much trouble just now. I have to take revenge. Just now, he had no intention of stopping Zhao Min from leaving. The main reason was that it wasn't good to stay in that place for long. He was worried that if she continued, there might be an accident. In addition, he had a stomach full of questions to ask Ajio, so he watched as Zhao Min left. Now that Song Qing-shu was free, there was no reason not to take revenge. Chapter 475. Although Zhao Min had been gone for a long time, with Song Qing-shu's lightness skill, it didn't take him long to find traces of Zhao Min's group. Just now, Ajio's sudden appearance made all of Zhao Min's efforts go to waste. Moreover, the reversal of the plot made her a thorn in the side of all the martial artists. Even though Zhao Min had a large number of experts under her command, she didn't dare to fight directly with the angry crowd. Under Zhao Min's command, the experts under her command were sent out in groups. Each group pretended to protect one person and led away the pursuers along the way. In the end, Zhao Min ignored the objections of her subordinates and also sent out the last expert at her side. The crowd of heroes was confused by Zhao Min's deliberate deception. Subconsciously, they chased after the teams with the most highly skilled guards. As a result, the real Zhao Min was left behind, taking a leisurely stroll. What a group of idiots. Zhao Min kicked her small boots, and a beautiful smile appeared on her lips. Is that so? Song Qingshu laughed coldly. He jumped down from a nearby tree and stood in front of her. Zhao Min's expression changed slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. The idiots that I'm talking about naturally don't include the wise and mighty hero song. It's too late to think of flattering now. Song Qingshu glared at her unhappily and carefully used his qi to search a radius of several dozen feet. He didn't find the existence of anyone else. Hee, now that the experts under the princess are not around, I'd like to see who will come to save you. Hey, you idiot. I clearly sent them away on purpose so that I could stay here alone to wait for you. Zhao Min pouted her small mouth, revealing an aggrieved expression. Make up. Keep making up. Looking at Zhao Min's innocent look, Song Qingshu secretly exclaimed at his heart. I know this demoness is lying to me, but why can't I help but want to believe her? If you think I'm making it up, then so be it. Zhao Min didn't defend herself at all. She looked at him with a smile and said, Do you have a lot to say to me now? Not only do I have something to say, I simply want to strip you of all your clothes, hang you up, and beat you for 3 days and 3 nights. Song Qingshu gnashed his teeth. You want to take off my clothes? Zhao Min didn't look scared at all, just like you did to Huang Rong. When I entered the cave, I saw her lying there with her clothes half undone and her hair disheveled. Even a woman like me was moved. Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing going on between me and Huang Rong. Song Qingshu said hurriedly. There's no outsider here. What's there to hide? Zhao Min chuckled softly. To be honest, I admire you very much. You actually dared to do such a thing to her. I said there's nothing. Song Qingshu looked depressed, but he quickly remembered the purpose of his trip. He quickly became serious and said, I just want to ask you a question. I know what you want to ask. Zhao Min's face didn't look surprised at all. Thinking that his reputation was almost ruined, Song Qingshu snorted coldly and said, I thought we'd be friends after going through so many things together. I didn't expect you to do that just now. Thinking back on everything that happened between the two of them, the robbery at the inn, the search for a doctor, the danger at Kaifeng, the showdown with the fake Zhang Wuji. Although the two of them belonged to different camps, Song Qingshu had long regarded Zhao Min as a friend. Sometimes he even faintly felt that she had a good impression of him. It wasn't until just now that Song Qingshu realized that he had been the only one thinking about it. Actually, at first I really wanted to help you hide it, but I changed my mind at the last minute after seeing Huang Rong. Zhao Min's tone was calm, as if she was talking about something that couldn't be more normal. What caused you to change your mind? Song Qingshu frowned. I'm jealous, Zhao Min said lightly. What? Song Qingshu didn't seem to hear her clearly. I said I'm jealous. Zhao Min repeated word by word loudly. What are you jealous of? Song Qingshu suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. Although I knew that you weren't an honest man in the past, and that there were endless women around you, out of sight, out of mind, so I didn't feel anything. Until today, when I saw the situation in the cave, Huang Rong's face was full of images of you and her being intimate. I felt like I was going crazy. Zhao Min's expression kept changing, as if she was recalling the scene at that time. You can't ask a jealous woman to be rational. Do you think I'll believe your nonsense? Song Qingshu frowned and quickly reached out to interrupt Zhao Min's words. Tell me, what's the reason? You've been seen through so easily? Zhao Min, who had a bitter expression just now, suddenly had a bright smile on her face. She's so engrossed in her acting. Why don't you pretend to cooperate? If you continue to talk about other things like this, don't blame me for being rude. Song Qingshu secretly thought that it was a close call. In fact, he almost really believed her. However, countless painful lessons had taught him a truth. Never think too much of yourself, so that he wouldn't fall into a passive position in their relationship. Oh, Zhao Min's beautiful eyebrows raised slightly. How does our Prince Song plan to deal with a defenseless, weak woman? Weak woman? Song Qingshu couldn't help laughing, and then deliberately put on a look of being blinded by lust. In the middle of the night, in the wilderness of the triangle, were a man and a woman alone. Princess, how do you think I'll deal with you? You're really shameless. Zhao Min couldn't help but blush slightly. If you don't want me to show my shameless side, then tell me the truth, Song Qing-shu said fiercely, but he secretly sighed in his heart. He remembered how high-spirited he was when he toyed with Nan Lan and Luo Bing, but now he had to restrain himself when dealing with a little girl. He was really regressing. I'm afraid of you. I'll tell you, okay? Zhao Min rolled her eyes at him, and then her expression changed. She finally answered, after so many interactions, I know that you're a rare talent, and I want to recruit you into the Ruyang mansion. But I know that you have great ambitions, and you're not willing to submit to others, so I didn't say anything just now. But what happened just now made me realize that this is a great opportunity, so I had an idea. I'll use Huang Rong to ruin your reputation in the martial arts world of the Central Plains, and everyone will want to beat you up. That way, no matter how great your ambitions are, they'll vanish. At that time, although the world is big, there'll be no place for you. Naturally, you'll be willing to come to the Ruyang mansion. Seeing Song Qingshu's face turn green and then red, Zhao Min smiled slightly. What do you think? I'm good enough to you, right? I've spent a lot of effort to recruit you. Song Qingshu's heart turned cold. It turned out that in her heart, he was no different from the likes of Xianming elders and Taoist priest Baisu. They were all lackeys, and at most, lackeys with great martial arts skills. Hurry up and leave before I change my mind. Song Qingshu stood there quietly. His voice seemed to be mixed with ice. Chapter 476. When Song Qingshu returned to the courtyard, he was surprised to find that the three women were sitting quietly waiting for him. Seeing that Song Qingshu had returned empty-handed, Zhou Zhiruo looked as if she had expected it. She asked snappily, I heard from Sister Agio that you want to find the witch surnamed Zhao for revenge. Where is she? However, he was cursing in his heart. Did this witch Zhao Min have a grudge against him in her previous life? Why does she always want to snatch my man? This? Song Qingshu looked embarrassed and answered hesitantly, I didn't find her. I'm afraid you let her go. Xia Qingqing couldn't help but interrupt. Today, Zhao Min's repeated questioning almost exposed the relationship between her and Song Qingshu. Since then, her reputation was ruined. Naturally, she didn't have a good impression of her. Sigh, he just can't be cruel to beautiful women. Otherwise, he wouldn't have touched Huang Rong. Just now, when Song Qingshu proposed to find Zhao Min for revenge, Zhu Yuai knew that it was not reliable, so she didn't take it too seriously. She was more concerned about Huang Rong. Sure enough, when they heard the two words Huang Rong, Zhou Zhiruo and Xia Qingqing's expressions immediately changed. Qingshu, you are really wrong this time. If it weren't for Qingqing and Agio, wouldn't you have lost your reputation this time? In the future, there will be no place for you in Jianghu. Zhou Zhiruo looked at Song Qingshu angrily. This time, Ouyang Feng secretly informed Shaolin, Wudong, Chongyang, and Beggar Clan of the martial arts world. By the time the Amei sect got the news, it was already too late. Hearing that Song Qingshu actually dared to do such a thing, the three women almost fainted. They didn't doubt that the news was fake. After all, with Song Qingshu's character in private, it was not surprising that he really did such a thing. However, even though they were angry, the three women still couldn't bear to see Song Qingshu be consigned to eternal damnation. They still had to find a way to clean up Song Qingshu's mess. At this time, they were glad that they received the news late and didn't rush to the scene. After the three women had a discussion, they decided to first let Xia Qingqing act as the owner of the Golden Snake Camp to stabilize the situation. Then, Zhou Zhiruo and Zhu Yaoyao would slowly discuss a foolproof plan. Finally, Zhu Yaoyao remembered that she had created a 5-flag envoys by imitating the Ming dynasty. So she sent the experts of the Hutu flag to quietly dig a tunnel into the cave, while Song Qingshu was in a standoff with the other heroes and swapped with Huang Rong. I was also framed in this matter. Song Qingshu spread his hands innocently. If you don't believe me, you can call Heroine Huang out to confront her. The truth will be revealed. How would we dare to keep such a hot potato? We have already secretly sent her back. Zhou Zhiruo snorted coldly. I've already told Ajio the whole thing. This is all Ouyang Feng's plot. I just happened to pass by and got implicated. Song Qing-shu smiled bitterly and cursed Ouyang Feng's female relatives in his heart. Even so, why didn't he find someone else but you? Thinking of Huang Rong's messy clothes and blushing face, Zhou Zhuo felt a nefarious fire rising in her heart. Yes, in the end, Madame Guo was still. Zhu Meng's expression was complicated. She had traveled Jianghu for many years and had always admired the couple's righteous act of defending Xiangyang. Occasionally, she would feel regret. If the Great Ming dynasty had the couple, her father would not have been driven into a corner and died for the country. But she never thought that the husband she had chosen would do such a despicable thing. It even made her doubt her own choice. I really didn't do anything to her. Looking at the three women's disbelieving eyes, Song Qing-shu felt a little guilty and hurriedly said, "Even if I did, it was just a superficial act. It was just to deceive Ouyang Feng. Are you still trying to lie to us?" Madame Guo's skin is flushed with excitement. Xia Qingqing sighed faintly. After all, this was the reason why the three women unanimously believed that Song Qing-shu had really done something to Huang Rong. After all, they were all experienced people. How could they not recognize that kind of redness? That was just to deceive Ouyang Feng. I transferred a few streams of true qi into her body. I didn't expect her body to be so sensitive and release it so quickly. Thinking of Huang Rong's expression when she was aroused, Song Qing-shu instinctively froze. But he quickly realized that it was not the time to reminisce about this, so he hurriedly changed the topic. "What do I have to do to make you believe me?" Actually, it's not that there's no way to verify what he said. Xia Qingqing, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said. She and Song Qing-shu had been through so much together, and she had long believed in this man. Even if Song Qing-shu was really a devil, she would not mind. So she wanted to secretly help Song Qing-shu. What way? Zhuo and Zhu Yui suddenly became energetic, and even Song Qing-shu could not help but pricked up his ears. Xia Qingqing suddenly blushed, pulled the two women aside, and whispered in their ears. Soon, the other two women's faces also turned red. Ridiculous. Is this a test, or taking advantage of him? Zhou Zhuo could not help but spit. That's right, Zhu Yui echoed. If you want to go, Qingqing, you go alone. I won't do it. Xia Qingqing suddenly became anxious. If I go alone, what if you say that I'm partial to him? We believe you, okay? Zhou Zhuo's cheeks were burning. She thought that married women were different. That proposal was really too shameful. What is it? Seeing the three women's embarrassed expressions at the same time, Song Qing-shu suddenly felt like a cat was scratching his heart. In fact, with his martial arts, if he really wanted to eavesdrop, he might have been able to hear Xia Qingqing's whispers just now. However, if there was no secret between lovers, it would be a little boring. If you want to listen, we can, but you have to let us seal your acupuncture points first. Xia Qingqing bit her lip and looked at him. Okay. Song Qing-shu did not hesitate and spread out his hands, indicating that they could seal their acupuncture points as they pleased. Seeing that he did not guard against them at all, the three women were all stunned, and a trace of emotion welled up in their hearts at the same time. After all, with Song Qing-shu's current martial arts, it was unlikely that he would be restrained. Now, he did not even ask before agreeing to Xia Qingqing's request. You will definitely die in the hands of a woman in the future. Xia Qingqing sighed. Definitely a beautiful woman. Zhu Yui could not help but agree. Zhou Zhuo had been standing silently on the side, but after Xia Qingqing sealed Song Qing-shu's acupuncture points, she suddenly made her move and sealed the acupuncture points of Zhu Yui and Xia Qingqing from behind. Zhu Yui and Xia Qingqing's martial arts were not below Zhou Zhuo's, and it was impossible for them to be restrained by her in the blink of an eye. However, all of this happened too suddenly, and the two women were not prepared for Zhou Zhuo at all, so their acupuncture points were sealed in an instant. Sister Zhou, what are you doing? The two women were suddenly shocked and angry. Didn't you say that he would eventually die in the hands of a woman? Zhou Zhuo smiled slightly, and her slender hand gently stroked Song Qingshu's cheek. Gradually, it moved down, and her sharp nails easily cut the skin on his neck. End of this chapter. Chapter 477. You want to kill Brother Song? Xia Qingqing cried out in surprise. She had also heard about the grudge between the two of them, but during this period of time they had been together, Zhou Zhuo had completely behaved like a competent wife. She had thought that Zhou Zhiruo had completely forgotten about the hatred of the past. The Brother Song you mentioned used despicable means to take my body. Do you want me to kill him? Zhou Zhiruo's eyes glowed with excitement. She had taken revenge several times before, but each time she was captured and bullied because she was not his opponent. Thinking of a situation where she was bullied by him, Zhou Zhiruo's face turned slightly red, and she secretly spat. Although his means were indeed despicable, we were husband and wife at that time. Even if he did that kind of thing, isn't it reasonable? Song Qingshu could not help but interrupt. Shut up. Zhou Zhiruo's face turned even redder. At that time, she and he were clearly just a fake husband and wife, but she did not expect that he would actually pretend to be real. Sister Zhou, even if Brother Song was in the wrong first, his feelings for you are not fake. Moreover, during this period of time, we can also feel your feelings for him. You must not ignore your true feelings for the sake of revenge. Zhu Yaoyao appeared to be much calmer, and her words were extremely sincere. Do you really think that I am in love with him? Zhou Zhiruo snorted, and there was a trace of a crazy smile in her eyes. In order to take revenge, I practiced martial arts hard, but I don't know why this bastard's martial arts became more and more powerful. After so many failures, I understood that it was impossible to use force to take revenge, so I could only use a woman's natural weapon, a beautiful face, and a moving body. This bastard really fell for it, thinking that I really loved him from hate, so he didn't have any wariness towards me at all. Zhu Yaoyao and Xia Qingqing were secretly shocked. They did not expect that she would choose to serve her enemy with her beauty for the sake of revenge. The depth of her scheming was really shocking. Song Qingshu did not have any reaction. He just looked at her quietly. Then what do you want? Zhou Zhuo smiled faintly and stuck out her tongue to lick the blood that was oozing out of his neck. I will slowly cut open your skin and drink your blood one mouthful at a time. You don't have to be so cruel. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. This is the vow I secretly made when I was drugged by you in the inn. Today, I will make the vow come into effect one by one. Ignoring the pleading of Zhu Mengmeng and Xia Qingqing, he flew out with Song Qingshu. Looking at the familiar cave in front, Song Qingshu was speechless. He did not expect that he would come back here after such a long time. He did not expect that he would be here again. Was the shy and passionate Huang Rong. Huang Rong was now, and Zhuo Zhuo threw Song Qingshu behind a pile of dry grass, squatted down, and looked at him closely. If you beg me, I may consider not killing you. Zhiruo, have you played enough? I know you won't kill me. Song Qingshu looked at the woman in front of him with a smile. A trace of panic suddenly flashed in Zhou Zhiruo's eyes. She forced herself to calm down and snorted. You are still so narcissistic when you are about to die. Really? The smile on Song Qingshu's face became wider. If you really wanted to kill me, you wouldn't have subconsciously used a soft force when you threw me to the ground just now. I was just worried that you would use the force of vibration to break through the acupoints in your body. Zhou Zhiruo hurriedly explained. Oh, Song Qingshu raised his eyebrows. Then why were you so close to me just now and looked in my eyes without any precaution? You have also practiced the Nine Sutra. You should know that using the soul transfer technique does not require internal force. I just forgot for a moment. Zhou Zhiruo's words became flustered. Song Qingshu shook his head to express his disbelief. Zhiruo, your meticulousness is no less than Zhao Min's. If it was really a deliberate plan, how could there be such a big flaw? Zhou suddenly became angry. You will pay for your arrogance. If you didn't use the soul transfer technique just now, you won't have the chance now. Don't pull a long face. You can't hold back your laughter. Seeing Zhou Zhiruo's mouth twitch several times, Song Qingshu laughed. Uffed. In the end, Zhou Zhiruo couldn't help but laugh out loud. Suddenly, it was like the ice and snow melting. The frost on her face turned into a warm spring breeze. I didn't expect you to be fooled like this, but I thought you acted pretty well. Song Qingshu didn't say anything and just looked at her with a smile. Zhou Zhiruo came to his side and sat down. She asked curiously, "Did you really judge that I was pretending based on those two things? It's a bit unbelievable. Actually, those were all pretenses. There's another reason." A strange smile appeared on Song Qingshu's face. What reason? Zhou Zhiruo was stunned. The acting just now had even fooled her, but it still couldn't fool him. Of course, Zhou Zhiruo was curious. What do you think my martial arts rank in the world? Song Qingshu didn't answer directly. Instead, he changed the topic. Your martial arts? Zhou Zhiruo thought carefully for a while and said uncertainly, apart from some hidden masters, you should be able to enter the top 10. Song Qingshu smiled slightly. The world is big, and there are many talented people. Although my martial arts are not bad, I don't know if I can enter the top 10. But there is one martial art that I am confident of being the best in the world. Qinggong. This was Zhou Zhiruo's first reaction. No. Song Qingshu smiled mysteriously. Come closer. Hearing Song Qingshu's answer, Zhou Zhiruo's face suddenly turned red. Bah, shameless. Song Qingshu smiled proudly. To me, whether a woman's reaction in bed is real or fake, you can't fool me at all. So, it's your body that betrayed you. Zhou Zhiruo couldn't help but pinch the thin flesh on his waist. The two of them played for a while. Suddenly, Zhou Zhiruo sighed sadly. You can't be the real Song Qingshu, right? Song Qingshu was stunned. Why do you ask? Zhou Zhiruo looked at the bonfire not far away and sighed faintly. The real Qingshu only loves me. He doesn't even care about a beauty like Zhao Min. The real Qingshu won't drug me. His martial arts won't advance by leaps and bounds like yours, and he won't be as glib as you. Then who do you like? Song Qingshu didn't answer. Instead, he asked, I don't know. Zhou Zhiruo's eyes suddenly became a little blank. After a while, she smiled. It should be you. Song Qingshu smiled with relief and hugged her in his arms. That's it. How did your acupoints open? Zhou Zhiruo looked at him in surprise. Didn't you say that my martial arts can be ranked in the top 10 in the world? What's so strange about opening my acupoints? Song Qingshu said with a smile. You're so annoying. So you've been watching me make a fool of myself. Zhou Zhiruo was so shy that she directly buried her face in his arms. Song Qingshu's blood was boiling because of Huang Rong's teasing just now. At this time, with a warm and fragrant body in his arms, and the other party was his legitimate wife, how could he hold back? He lifted her chin and kissed her. After a long time, Zhou Zhiruo's body seemed to melt. When Song Qingshu's hand reached for her belt, she finally woke up for a moment. She pressed his big hand down and opened her mouth slightly. Can you tell me where the real Qingshu is? Song Qingshu blew into her ear. I'm the real Qingshu. Zhou Zhiruo's eyes lit up. She finally let go of his hands and let him untie her clothes. Then he drove straight in. In addition to the sound of breathing in the cave, there was also a faintly discernible, strange conversation. I feel so guilty. I always feel like I'm having an affair with another man behind my husband's back. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm your husband. But I know you're not. Then why are you so cooperative? Chapter 478. Ajio, Ching, it's my fault. If you want to hit me or punish me, just do as you please. Don't be so serious. Zhou Zhiruo reached out to pull the sleeves of the two girls, but the two girls turned their heads in unison and ignored her. I just wanted to make a joke. Besides, what this bastard did back then was really despicable. I also wanted to take the opportunity to scare him. Zhou Zhiruo continued to explain. Humph. Zhu Xiaoxiao snorted and couldn't help but say sourly. In the end, you were so scared that you threw yourself into his arms? Zhou Zhiruo and Song Qingshu came back together. Their faces were beaming with happiness. Even a fool would know what they had just done. Zhou Zhuo was also a little embarrassed. She couldn't help but glare at Song Qing-shu. If he hadn't pulled her, the two of them would have come back a long time ago. I wonder if Sister Zhou found out whether he touched Huang Rong or not. Xia Qingqing looked at the two of them with a faint smile and emphasized the word sister. Thinking of Xia Qingqing's method, Zhou Zhuo blushed and answered, I don't think so. He doesn't have the smell of other women. The two of them had been intimate so many times. Unless Song Qing-shu had secretly taken a bath, if he had really done something with Huang Rong, the smell on his body couldn't be hidden at all. When Sister heard my suggestion, she laughed and said that I was not serious. I didn't expect Sister to volunteer to put it into practice. Xia Qingqing's tone unknowingly became harsh. After all, she and Zhu Xiaoxiao were almost going crazy just now. Who knew that Zhou Zhuo would secretly take him out to have sex with him? After feeling lucky, a wave of anger arose spontaneously. Don't insult me anymore. I almost want to find a hole to hide in. Zhou Zhuo was embarrassed and couldn't help but secretly pinch Song Qing-shu to ask him to help. There's a martial arts competition tomorrow. I'll go to the quiet room to meditate. You guys take your time to talk. After that, Song Qing-shu hurriedly slipped away. What kind of joke was this? If he joined in at this time, wouldn't he be looking for trouble? The harem should be at daggers drawn. Otherwise, if everyone was united against the outside world, her days would not be good. When Song Qing-shu came out the next day, he found that the three women had reconciled and had a deep sisterly love. Song Qing-shu was greatly surprised. He quietly pulled Zhou Zhuo and asked, How did you settle it? Zhou Zhuo spat. It's none of your business. After that, she pushed him away and ran to chat with Zhu Aihua and Xia Qingqing. On Song Qing-shu's way to the arena, all sorts of martial artists were talking about what happened last night. Did you hear that? Yesterday, this Song guy fought against 3 peerless experts by himself and didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. How is that possible? Peerless experts are too cheap. Nowadays, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is called a peerless expert. Shaolin's 13 peerless divine monks Xian Cheng, Liao's South Courtyard King Xiao Feng, and Chongyang Palace's #1 expert, Qiu Chuji, aren't they called peerless experts? Damn, is this guy even human? That's right. That's why the casino lowered his odds. Now, Song Guy's odds are 1 to 2. That's the lowest of all the contestants. I don't think so. My many years of experience tell me that, according to the nature of the casino, the most popular contestant will definitely die. His odds are the lowest, so the casino doesn't think he'll win. Among the other contestants, the girl, the monk, the one-armed man with the heavy sword, and that silly young man, they may not be weaker than him. I agree. Last night, he just fought against 3 great experts. He must have used up a lot of qi. Today's opponent is Jin Yang's swordsman. With the strength he showed last night, Song Qing-shu may not be able to defeat him. That's right. How could I forget about Jin Yang's swordsman? Listening to the crowd's discussion, Song Qing-shu secretly laughed. He couldn't help but recall some things from his previous life. At that time, he was just like them. As a member of the masses, he began to analyze the bits and pieces of information he got. He didn't know that because of his level of vision, the things he analyzed were just a joke in the eyes of the superior. Suddenly, Song Qing-shu's eyes lit up. He saw Huang Rong and her group walking over from not far away. Perhaps she had deliberately disguised herself, but he couldn't see the fear from last night on her. Instead, she looked as glamorous and radiant as she usually did. Obviously, Huang Rong also saw him, although she still had a lingering fear when her reputation was ruined last night. Now that she thought about it, she still remembered how they tried to hide it from Ouyang Feng in the cave at the beginning. Thinking of all kinds of charming and gentle things, Huang Rong couldn't help but tremble. She didn't know what tricks this bastard used to make her lose all her dignity in front of him. I heard that Madame Gua was in danger last night. Is she okay? Song Qing-shu's expression was as usual. He chatted with her as if nothing had happened. This bastard's acting was quite good. Huang Rong blushed slightly, but she had to reply softly. Thank you for your concern, Prince Song. Last night, I met a shameless thief, but I took care of him. You don't have to worry about me." Song Qingshu was stunned. This woman really knew how to take advantage of others. However, he quickly recovered and smiled. "If Madam has any needs in the future, I will do my best. I will do my best until my death." The rest of the people present were confused by his words. Even Guofu, who had never been on good terms with him, felt that he had gone too far with his flattery. Huang Rong felt her body heat up and naturally understood the meaning of his words. She was ashamed and angry in her heart, but on the surface she smiled and replied, "If I need help, I will find my humble husband. There is no need for young Master Song to worry." "Oh." Song Qingshu's face revealed a trace of an evil smile. "I'm afraid that Hero Guo will be guarding Xiangyang and won't have the energy to help Madam. A wild crane like me is different. I guarantee that I will be at your beck and call." His words made Huang Rong's cheeks burn. Before she could react, Guofu rushed to scold him. "How can you be like this? My mother is the leader of the beggar sect. If she needs help, she will naturally have people to help her. Why would she look for an outsider like you?" Song Qingshu suddenly showed a look of surprise. "So Madam usually looks for people from the beggar sect when she needs help. That was rude of me." Guofu still wanted to continue, but Huang Rong hurriedly stopped her. "The martial arts competition is about to begin, and I still have some matters to attend to. Young Master Song, you should also go and prepare early. I'll take my leave now." Her silly daughter didn't know what was going on, and she just randomly interrupted. Chapter 479. After a night of turmoil, the second round of the competition finally began. Seeing Song Qingshu's appearance, there was a commotion in the field. Obviously, most people knew what had happened yesterday. However, many people were not there last night, so they didn't see Song Qingshu fight. Song Qingshu won the first round without putting in much effort. In the second round, it was the famous swordsman of Jinyang. Judging from the battle strength that the swordsman of Jinyang had shown in the first round, the two of them were bound to have a fierce battle. Everyone's eyes widened, not wanting to miss any exciting details. "Master Xiao, please." With one hand behind his back, Song Qingshu made an inviting gesture with the other hand. As the wind blew, his white robe fluttered, and he looked like a grandmaster. Xiao Ban smiled and said lightly, "There's no need to fight this round. I admit defeat." The crowd burst into an uproar as soon as he said this. Although many people believed that he was no match for Song Qingshu, there were also many people who thought that Song Qingshu had fought repeatedly last night. With Xiao Ban's martial arts skills, he might still have a chance. Who would have thought that he would admit defeat without even fighting? Suddenly, the field was filled with boos. Those who had bet on Xiao Ban were so angry that they jumped up and down, and all kinds of vulgar words came out of their mouths. "Coward! What bullshit, Master Jinyang. I think it's better to change his name to Jinyang Coward. Pay for our money." Xiao Ban snorted coldly. The noisy people in the field only felt a vibration in their ears, and their blood surged in their chests. For a moment, they couldn't say anything. They couldn't help but change their expressions. His strength was really shocking. Seeing that the field quieted down, Xiao Ban cupped his hands and said to the crowd, "I have fought with Prince Song several times before, and I lost every time. Even if I fight again this time, I still can't win. I won't waste your time." After saying that, he left Song Qingshu with an enigmatic smile and turned to leave the arena. It seemed that he didn't want to watch the rest of the competition. Song Qingshu was confused. He couldn't help but think that he had emphasized that they were not enemies. Was he using this method to prove his sincerity? But why did he do that? Seeing that the first match had ended without a winner, the crowd was disappointed and had no choice but to turn their attention to the next match. The contestants had not even stepped onto the stage, but many people were already discussing it. Who do you think will win, Ling Huchong or Yang Hua? Probably Ling Huchong. After all, his sword technique is publicly acknowledged as the #1 in the Five Mountain Sword faction. Moreover, Yang Hua has lost an arm. He will be at too much of a disadvantage in a fight. "I think so too," sword techniques have always been Yanghua, is using such a heavy fire stick as a sword. Isn't this a joke? That's not necessarily true. In the previous rounds, once Yang's opponents clashed with his weapon, their own weapon would immediately break. If Ling Huchang's sword was broken, then what use is his sword technique? With Ling Huchang's sword speed, how could he be stupid enough to fight Yanghua head-on? Hearing the discussion in the distance, Song Qingshu smiled. It seemed that Ling Huchang was going to disappoint these people. As expected, Yanghua waited in the arena for a long time without seeing any trace of Ling Huchang. A member of the Sun Moon sect hurriedly ran to Huang Rong and whispered a few words in her ear. A trace of surprise flashed across Huang Rong's face. She had no choice but to stand up and say, "Young hero Ling Hu is seriously injured and has decided to forfeit this match. Therefore, this round of competition, young hero Yang is the winner." Huang Rong was upset. She had wanted Ling Huchang to show his invincible might and defeat Yanghua to vent her anger. After all, she was almost ruined by Yang's adoptive father last night and lost her chastity. Thinking of what Yang Kong and Ouyang Feng had done, Huang Rong looked at Yanghua with an unfriendly gaze. "My father is annoying, my adoptive father is annoying, and now even my son is so annoying. Did I owe them in my previous life? If Yanghua really wins the championship, it will be troublesome if he wants to take revenge based on the relationship between us, mother and daughter." As Huang Rong was having a headache, she suddenly caught a glimpse of the smiling Song Qingshu. She didn't know why, but her heart gradually calmed down. She kept comforting herself. Anyway, with that person here, Yanghua can't win the championship. There must be a conspiracy. It must be manipulated from behind the scenes. The person who will advance to the next round must be predetermined. The uproar of the heroes in the arena was twice as loud as before. After all, the first round was forfeited and the second round was forfeited. It was hard not to be suspicious. Huang Rong and some leaders of the Golden Snake camp finally calmed the emotions of the heroes. Seeing Yang Miaojin and Shi Patian go on the arena at the same time, the noise in the arena gradually subsided. They looked at the two people on the arena with great expectation. "Brother, who do you think will win? We've been guessing for half a day, and then they forfeit. What's the point of guessing?" Yang Miaojin had already calmed herself down and eliminated all the noise from the outside world. In her eyes, there was only Shi Patian. She had watched the fight between Shi Patian and He Shiwo from beginning to end. Although Shi Patian looked like a simpleton, his incomparably powerful internal energy was indeed somewhat frightening. However, his moves were different from those of a normal person. His moves seemed to be a bit rough. It was Ishiwo's fault that his internal energy was not strong enough. Otherwise, Yang Miaojin would have been able to see more things. She made up her mind that she must make full use of the advantages of her moves and absolutely avoid a head-on collision with his internal energy. Different from yesterday, Shi Patian was holding a short saber in his hand today. Obviously, he didn't think that he could win the Pear Blossom Spear in the fourth lady's hand with his bare hands. The Golden Crow Saber Technique. After watching the two of them exchange a few moves, Song Qingshu subconsciously remembered the name of Shi Potion's saber technique. It seemed that this saber technique was created by Zizai's wife, and it was specifically used to restrain the Snow Mountain sword technique. When Song Qingshu and Icy Snow went to Jingzhou City to look for the godly radiating scripture, they had seen the sword technique of the Snow Mountain sect. Although it was exquisite in Song Qingshu's current eyes, it was not a top-notch sword technique. The Golden Crow Saber technique was used to restrain it, so no matter how powerful it was, it couldn't be too powerful. I really picked up a big bargain. Song Qingshu had a faint smile on his face. It seemed that Shi Patian hadn't gone to the Isle of Heroes to learn the Taishin scripture and the various martial arts on the stone wall. Otherwise, he would have a headache. The current Shi Patian was just a person with a top-notch internal energy, but no matching moves or martial arts. There was nothing to be afraid of. On the stage, the two figures had already separated. Yang Miaojin looked at her opponent and thought, His saber technique is indeed much better than his fist technique, but it's a pity that it is far inferior to my pear blossom spear. The exchange just now had made Yang Miaojin feel much more confident. Her spear technique became even more calm. The crowd could only see the sky full of pear blossom flowers revolving around Sher Potion's body. In the beginning, they could still see Sher Patian fighting back from time to time. Unfortunately, even his figure was almost covered by the pear blossom flowers, and the circle of pear blossom flowers was getting tighter and tighter. The crowd could only judge that Sher Patian was still persistently resisting by the sound of weapons clashing. "Hey, that silly boy seems to be in a bad situation," Guofu said thoughtlessly while eating melon seeds. Song Qing-shu furrowed his brows. It seemed like this Sher Patian had received guidance from an expert. The gap between the two of them was too big. So Sher Patian took the initiative to give up on competing moves and instead chose to focus on defending his own territory. It seemed like Yang Miaojin had gained the upper hand, but in fact, she hadn't gained much advantage. P.S. Why are the updates so slow recently? It's because I've been reading Pure Bird Reporter. It's a very good book. I recommend everyone to read it. P.S. It's still a problem of updating. I plan to adjust my state of mind in the next 2 days, and then I'll increase the number of updates. I also feel that it's not good to update once a day. End of this chapter. Chapter 480. On the stage, Yang Miaojin was also frowning. In front of her storm-like attacks, Sher Patian didn't have much strength to fight back. However, every time her pear blossom spear stabbed into his body would surge up with a protective Jinqi, and her spear would be shaken off and slide to the side. Sooner or later, this kind of fighting method will exhaust me to death. This thought flashed through Yang Miaojin's mind. She also made a prompt decision and quickly gave up on continuing this crazy bombardment of attacks. She withdrew her spear and retreated to a corner of the arena, quietly looking at Sher Patian in the distance. Yang Miaojin was tall and slender. At this moment, she was standing straight on the protruding pillar at the edge of the stage. Her bright red cloak was fluttering in the wind, revealing her curvaceous body that was outlined by her tight clothes. The group of Jianghu warriors below the stage swallowed their saliva. The fourth lady's body is really sexy. If any man could climb into her bed, wouldn't he die of sexual bliss? Just now, Sher Patian instinctively waved his saber to protect his body. Therefore, after Yang Miaojin retreated, he still waved his saber in the air for a while. He didn't realize it until he heard the laughter from below the stage. He couldn't help but rub the back of his head. This silly boy is really simple and honest. Yang Miaojin also couldn't help but laugh. She thought for a moment, then took the pear blossom spear out of her hand. The pear blossom spear suddenly became a pear blossom stick. As soon as she did this, everyone in the field looked at her in confusion. Those who couldn't see the reason for the fight just now all gave her a thumbs up, thinking that she was generous and didn't want to take advantage of the weapon. Those who could see the reason for the fight just now secretly frowned. If she couldn't break through Sher Potion's defense even with the spearhead, then wouldn't it be even more hopeless to take the spearhead off? I'm going to attack. Young hero Sher, please be careful. After Yang Miaojin finished speaking, she gracefully leapt in front of Sher Patian. Sher Patian hastily raised his blade to meet her attack. Who would have thought that Yang Miaojin didn't directly attack his body like a moment ago? Instead, she directly stabbed Sher Potion's wrist, which was holding the blade. Although the weapon in Yang Miaojin's hand seemed to be rolling, she was still using the pear blossom spear art. Her spear art was extremely exquisite. Sher Patian didn't even have time to react before he felt his wrist go numb. He almost couldn't hold the short blade in his hand anymore. However, his body protecting Zhenqi automatically counterattacked and shook off the tip of Yang Miaojin's stick. All of this was within Yang Miaojin's expectations. She immediately changed her move. Her spear was like a swimming dragon, directly piercing towards his eyes. Sher Patian couldn't help but be shocked. No matter how powerful his Jinqi was, it would not be able to protect his fragile eyes, so he hastily put away his blade to protect his eyes. Who would have thought that Yang Miaoxin's attack was just a feint? The spear changed its direction midway, and with a pa sound, Shi Patian felt his wrist go numb again. He was once again stabbed in the same place as before. Shi Patian was a natural-born martial arts genius. His fighting instinct made him clench his teeth and bear the pain while holding his blade. He took the opportunity to slide along the spear's body. If Yang Miaoxin didn't let go of the spear, he probably wouldn't even be able to save his fingers. However, Yang Miaoxin had been immersed in the pear blossom spear art for more than 10 years. The spear in her hand had already become a part of her body. She calmly patted the spear's handle with her palm, and with a whoosh sound, the spear flew out of her hand. Yang Miaoxin took advantage of the recoil force to bend her waist, and her whole body somersaulted backwards, cleverly dodging Shi Patian's blade. Her raised legs just happened to clamp the tail of the spear, and the spear swept toward the back of Shi Patian's head. Shi Patian didn't have enough time to dodge, and with a pa sound, he was hit so hard that he started seeing stars. Although he was protected by Zhan Qi and didn't receive any real damage, but the pain was still very painful. Good. After a short period of shock, thunderous applause and cheers sounded from below the ring, and frivolous whistles could be heard from time to time. After all, the flexibility of Yang Miaoxin's body just now really made people's imagination run wild. Song Qingshu smiled and nodded. He had really underestimated her. He didn't expect that she would choose such a smart strategy. No wonder she had to take off the spearhead, otherwise, Shi Patian's tendons wouldn't be able to be saved. Although Shi Patian looked stupid when it came to fighting instinct, he was actually a rare genius. He also understood that every time Yang Miaoxin attacked, the target was actually his wrist. However, understanding was one thing, whether or not he could dodge was another thing. Although Shi Patian had cultivated an amazing internal force due to all kinds of coincidences, but because he hadn't had the time to go to the Isle of Heroes, he hadn't learned any martial arts that matched his internal force. Right now, when he was fighting against Yang Miaoxin, he was only relying on his fighting instinct. However, Yang Miaoxin's pear blossom spear art had been meticulously refined by generations of people. The spear head was constantly changing, and, at the same time, it was also good at confusing the enemy. It could be said that Shi Patian had suffered a lot. He was often deceived by Yang Miaoxin's feints. Although his reaction was amazingly fast, and he could often dodge Yang Miaoxin's following moves, it was impossible for him to be so lucky every time. As the two of them fought faster and faster, Shi Patian's wrist was hit more and more. In the beginning, it was only slightly numb, but Yang Miaoxin's attacks would hit the same spot every time. Shi Patian's protective Zhan Qi finally couldn't hold on any longer. His wrist was getting more and more painful, and he almost couldn't hold the curved blade in his hand anymore. Pop! A clear sound was heard. Obviously, Shi Patian's wrist was hit again. A curved blade flew up into the sky, spun for a few times, then fell down and stabbed into the floor not far away. The blade kept shaking, letting out waves of mournful sounds, obviously telling the owner's unwillingness. I lost. Shi Patian scratched his hair in annoyance, which made his already untidy hair even messier. Thank you for letting me win. Yang Miaoxin slightly gasped for breath, then finally let out a sigh of relief. This young man was like a freak. His internal force seemed to be endless. If they really fought for a while longer, she might be the first one to fall down. Huang Rong, who had walked onto the stage, looked at Yang Miaoxin with appreciation and said with a clear voice, "Miss Yang, in order to avoid hurting young warrior Shi's hand tendons, you purposely took off the spearhead. You would rather suffer a loss. Your kindness is really admirable." Only then did all the warriors realize what was going on, and they all cheered. Women were always popular in the martial world, not to mention that Yang Miaoxin was such a beautiful woman. The last match of the third round. Please welcome Miss Qing and young Master Su Zhu. As Huang Rong's voice sounded, the audience gradually quieted down. Finally, the main event was coming. The previous two matches had been aborted, which had aroused everyone's interest. The fight between Yang Yaojin and Shi Patian was also very exciting, so the warriors in the martial world were looking forward to the last match. On one side was a young girl with a terrifying natural sword chi, and on the other side was a young monk who seemed to be proficient in the 72 ultimate martial arts of Shaolin. Neither of them was weak, so it was destined to be a good show. Little monk, don't cry if it hurts. Qing looked at Su Zhu with a smile. She waved her bamboo stick, and a dozens of meters long sword chi chopped toward Su Zhu. If I don't write some words here, many readers who read pirated versions will not be able to see them. Today, someone sent me a screenshot of a reader commenting on the speed of my updates. I can see that he really likes this book, and he has been reading it for a long time. However, I am curious as to why I have never seen this comment before. After asking, I found out that the person only made a comment in the comments section of a pirated version of the book. Seeing that he had worked so hard to type so many words, he probably didn't realize that if it wasn't a coincidence, I wouldn't be able to see what he had written. So, to reiterate, there are only two places where I can see and respond to your comments. One is the comments section under the book, and the other is the QQ group. There are two groups in this book. The VIP group is 316289594, screenshot required, and the ordinary group is 337294925. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.